Chapter 314. Grandmaster and the others wanted to know what dangers Tang San's team of 7 had encountered. Under the questioning, Tang San began to slowly explain. Along the way, the others would add a sentence or two. In the end, he told them everything that had happened in the past half a month. Grandmaster suddenly didn't know what to say. Flanders and the other two also had strange expressions. What they said was too surreal. In 15 days, they had encountered 5 fatal dangers, 2 30,000-year soul beasts, 2 traps, and 2 battles with other soul masters. The 4 of them felt that these things were made up by Tang San and the others. It had only been half a month. No, let alone half a month. Even if it had been half a year, they wouldn't have encountered these things in the setting sun forest. However, the 7 of them had changed a lot. If they weren't lying, they felt that something was wrong. Could it be that something had happened in the setting sun forest? Otherwise, why would there be so many problems? As for Tang San and the others, they had never been to the forest before. They thought that these situations were normal and didn't think much of it. What's wrong? Tang San asked when he saw that Grandmaster and the others were hesitating. It's nothing. You must be tired. Take a good bath and sleep. The competition will start in a few days. Adjust yourselves to your best condition. Grandmaster didn't think much about it. The most important thing now was the competition. At this time, everyone was tired. After more than 10 days of concentration, they had to sleep well for a day and a night. After hearing Grandmaster's words, everyone got up and walked to their houses. At this time, Tang San asked, "Teacher, did the Avengers participate in the competition?" This question made everyone stop in their tracks. This was a question they had been discussing for several months. Flanders and the others had been secretly asking about this matter. At this time, the competition was about to start. If there was any news, it should have been found out by now. However, Grandmaster shook his head. We don't know yet. At least, they aren't in the major academies of Heavendo City. I see that these academies have their teams training. Aren't they participating? Ning Rongrong's eyes lit up. They had all speculated that if the Avengers Alliance were to participate in the competition, they would most likely choose one of the Heavendo City academies. However, it appeared that they didn't have a choice. After all, registration would begin the day after tomorrow. Not necessarily. The Heavens Battle Soul Arena hasn't seen anyone from the Avengers for a while. Maybe they went somewhere else to join another academy, Grandmaster said. Flanders suddenly said, I heard that 5 months ago, a title battle pet warrior went to the Oakland Academy. I don't know the details, but I do know that his title is Dr. Strange. Dr. Strange? What kind of weird name is that? Everyone was stunned. Tang San, on the other hand, had a vague feeling of familiarity. He blurted out, this name is similar to those people from the Avengers. Iron Man, Captain 50-50, they seem to be the same type. Now that you mention it, it does seem to be related. Grandmaster frowned. In other words, this Avengers Alliance might have secretly joined the Oakland Academy. However, I've sent people to inquire about this academy. Their teams have been constantly training, and they aren't weak. They have 3 soul ancestors, and one of them is already rank 39. It seems like he'll break through soon. When the time comes, a team of 4 soul ancestors won't be weak. Grandmaster continued, in any case, it's very likely that the Avengers Alliance will participate in the competition. Even if they don't participate, you can't underestimate any team. Do you hear me? Yes, Tang San and the others replied. Grandmaster had once told them that these 7 people would hide their strength and participate in the competition. This way, no one would be able to discover their differences at the beginning of the competition. They would only reveal their true strength in the finals. If they happened to be matched up against the Shrek Academy at that time, then it would be dangerous. Hence, Grandmaster had told them to be vigilant at all times. Lin Feng had also told them that even a lion would use its full strength to hunt a rabbit. Grandmaster's reminder was engraved in everyone's hearts. Afterwards, they quickly went to shower and sleep. Grandmaster and the others left to discuss the competition. As for Lin Feng, he wasn't in a hurry to go back. When he left before, he used the excuse of going to his own territory to take a look around. Now, he really was going to take a look around his own territory. Afterwards, he transformed into Dr. Strange's appearance and went straight to Oakland Academy. Previously, they had agreed to represent Oakland Academy in the competition and gain some fame. Now, it was time to settle this matter. After all, the list of names was about to be submitted. If it didn't go now, it would be too late. Soon, Lin Feng arrived at the entrance of Oakland Academy. As soon as he arrived, a middle-aged man walked out from the entrance before he could even enter. Feng Qi greets your majesty. Sir, please follow me. I'll bring you into the academy. Feng Qi respectfully cupped his hands towards Lin Feng. Recently, the list of names was about to be confirmed. The Oakland family guessed that Lin Feng would come over in a few days, so they sent someone to wait for him. Sure enough, he squatted down. Lin Feng glanced at Feng Qi. He was around 45 years old and had the strength of a Soul Emperor. Not bad. Lead the way, Lin Feng indifferently said. Feng Qi respectfully bowed again before leading Lin Feng forward. The people and students who saw this scene at the entrance raised their eyebrows. This was the student's teacher, Feng Qi. He had the strength of a Soul Emperor. He was actually so respectful as to bring someone into the academy. Could it be that this strangely dressed Soul Master was Soul Douluo? The only thing they could think of was a Soul Douluo. They hadn't even considered the possibility of a title Douluo. Ignoring the gazes of others, Lin Feng quickly entered the academy under Feng Qi's lead and went straight to the principal's office. Greetings, Your Majesty, Dr. Strange. This name was very hard to pronounce, but Feng Hui still said it in a very polite manner. As the principal of Oakland Academy, he represented the academy's face and had to show enough sincerity to Lin Feng. At this time, Feng Qi, who had led the way, had already left. Only Lin Feng and Feng Hui were in the principal's office. Sir is finally here. This Feng has waited for 6 months. The smile on Feng Hui's face didn't stop. May I know where Sir's 7 disciples are? Feng Hui looked out the window as if he was looking for Lin Feng's disciples. Lin Feng glanced at him and indifferently said, I don't like fake smiles. Put away. Feng Hui laughed dryly and quickly put away his smile. Chapter 3:15. After the smile disappeared, everything returned to normal. Sir, your disciples should also go through the admission procedures. Only then can we help you register for the competition, Feng Hui said seriously. He was right. If Lin Feng's clones hadn't even joined the academy, they wouldn't be able to participate. They're just outside the academy. Can't you go through the procedures with 7 names? Lin Feng said indifferently. Sir, we can go through the admission procedures directly, but if you want to register for the competition, you need to provide your martial soul and soul power level. Feng Hui said with a difficult expression. In fact, these things could be done as long as one was willing to spend money. But of course, Feng Hui wouldn't do that. He still didn't know the specific strength of Dr. Strange's disciples. He didn't even know their names. Titled Douluo's disciples shouldn't be weak, but he still couldn't feel at ease without seeing it with his own eyes. Lin Feng didn't make things difficult for him and said, Okay, I'll call them in now. Thank you for your understanding, sir. This is also a helpless action. Feng Hui looked grateful. In fact, in addition to testing the strength of this group of people, Feng Hui, as the dean, also had to know the specific situation of these people. Otherwise, if others asked in the future and he didn't know anything, wouldn't he explode on the spot? With a smile, Lin Feng got up and left the academy. After 2 minutes, he stepped through the gate of Oakland Academy with 7 masked people behind him. Hiss, that's the Avengers? It can't be wrong. That's the Hulk. I've watched every one of his matches. It's definitely him. I can't be wrong about that mask. That's the Thunder God Thor. I saw his match half a month ago. He's invincible. Even Soul Kings are no match for him. Why did the Avengers come to our Oakland Academy? Are they coming to our academy to be teachers? Lin Feng didn't want to hide anything at all. He directly led the 7 Avengers into Oakland Academy. No one would think that they were students. After all, they were too strong. In everyone's opinion, they should be 7 genius soul masters above the age of 25. Therefore, at this moment when they walked towards the academy, no one would think that they were here to join the academy. The auras of the 8 people were very strong, and no one dared to approach them. They only dared to follow them from afar. Just as Lin Feng led the 7 people inside, a voice suddenly rang out. In the dean's office, 10 young men and women in their 20s were talking to Feng Huai indignantly. There was even a teacher standing by the side with a helpless look on his face. What were they discussing? Of course, it was about the participation quota. As the competition approached, Feng Huai held a meeting with a few teachers and told them about Dr. Strange. Yang Lin, as the teacher in charge of Oakland Academy's team, naturally also participated in this meeting. Feng Huai had told them at the meeting that if Dr. Strange didn't come, the 10 of them would participate in the competition. If they did, then these 10 people would not be able to participate in the competition. Yang Lin would then have to tell them the bad news. Originally, this news was to be announced after Lin Feng brought his disciple through the enrollment procedures and left. The registration period for the competition was set in stages. It was fine to register in advance. By then, the matter would have been settled and the 10 people from Oakland Academy would have no hope. Feng Huai would make it up to them, and everything would be fine. That being said, Yang Lin was the teacher in charge of the 10 people. As a teacher, he had to think about his students. For the past few days, he had been praying that Dr. Strange wouldn't come so that his students would be able to participate. After all, this was a reward for all the hard work they had put in. Participating in this kind of competition was also for the sake of their future. As long as their ranking was high enough, they would have a better future after they graduated. Yang Lin didn't want his 9 students to be replaced for no reason after learning that Dr. Strange was coming. Therefore, he had informed his students in advance and brought them to the dean's office to try and persuade them. There was another important reason for Yang Lin's visit. He didn't want to admit defeat. Why would titled Douluo's disciple have to be strong? Yang Lin didn't believe that the 10 people he had worked so hard to train would be weaker than titled Douluo's disciple. But the problem was that Dean Feng Huai seemed to have chosen Dr. Strange. This made Yang Lin feel helpless. Dean, the 9 of us have trained hard for a year. Won't you give us a chance? 7 of the 10 people were the main force, the so-called starting lineup. The remaining 3 were substitutes. Due to their cooperation, they had trained together. It was just that they weren't as strong as the main force. There are still chances. As long as there aren't enough people, one of you can be a substitute, Feng Huai said. He remembered that Lin Feng had said that there were 7 disciples. If that was true, there should be 3 more substitutes. Substitutes? Us 3 soul ancestors will be their substitutes? Yang Lin frowned. Currently, there were 3 soul ancestors in their group, all of whom were older than the rest. After this year's tournament, they should be graduating soon. All 7 of them should be soul ancestors. It's normal for them to be substitutes. Yang Lin didn't say anything. All of them were soul ancestors, and they were titled Douluo's disciple. They wouldn't be weak. It wouldn't be a waste to let soul ancestors be substitutes. Dean, so what if they're a soul ancestor team? We've also challenged the entire Soul Sex team in the Great Soul Arena, and we're able to win. Our overall strength is definitely not weaker than theirs. The captain of the 10 people spoke. His name was Huang Qing. He was rank 45 and an assault-type soul ancestor. He was very strong. Hearing this, Feng Huai also remembered that 2 months ago, they had defeated a team of soul ancestors. After thinking for a while, he said, "Let's wait. We haven't reported the names yet. Let's wait for His Majesty to bring his disciples over. If they aren't strong enough, I'll reconsider." Feng Huai thought that if Dr. Strange's 7 disciples were only at level 41 or 42, he would really have to consider it carefully. As soon as he said that, the door to the dean's office opened. "Dean Feng, what are you thinking about?" Lin Feng walked in with a smile. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Everyone in the room saluted. No matter where he was, titled Douluo enjoyed the treatment of an emperor. If the weak didn't salute him, it would be a form of contempt for titled Douluo. If they didn't salute him, even if they were killed by titled Douluo, no one would stand up for them. Others would even think that they deserved to die. This was a world where strength was respected. As long as you were strong enough, your words were the truth. Yang Lin and the others were protesting just now. Now that they saw the real deal, they were nervous to death. Chapter 3:16. Sir, I've thought of a name for your disciples. What do you think of the strange Oakland battle team? Feng Huai hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Lin Feng smiled and didn't say anything. He just took a few steps forward. Lin Feng had actually heard their conversation. He wasn't interested in pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. He waved his hand, and the 7 clones behind him walked in. The Avengers. These are my 7 disciples, Lin Feng said indifferently. What? It's actually the Avengers. Yang Lin and Feng Huai were shocked. The 10 students were also shocked, especially the team leader, Huang Qing, who had said that they could defeat a soul ancestor. At this moment, his mouth was wide open. There was no one in Heavendo City who didn't know the name of the Avengers Alliance. Even the street vendors selling tofu pudding knew this name. This was a legendary battle team, the only soul ancestor Ruby Soul battle team in the entire continent. The only soul battle team in the entire continent without a single defeat. The entire continent. Wait, there were too many names. It was impossible to list them all in one breath. Even though the members of the Avengers hadn't appeared for 15 days, there were still many people talking about them in the bars and restaurants in the city. When Lin Feng entered the academy just now along the way, as long as they met people, they would follow behind them and observe curiously. When they entered the dean's office, there were already over 100 people outside. There were even more people coming after hearing the news. From this, it could be seen how popular the Avengers were, especially the mystery of their identities. Up until now, no one knew who they were or who their leader was. Everything was shrouded in mystery. Now that the 7 of them had appeared in Oakland Academy, everyone felt that there would definitely be explosive news. Sir, how old are they? Yang Lin asked subconsciously. The age requirement to participate in the competition was to be under 25 years old. In the eyes of the public, although the members of the Avengers were masked, they should be above 25 years old. 17 years old. Is there a problem? Wu Wu Kai asked in a deep voice. No problem. Yang Lin instantly stopped talking. They all knew how strong the members of the Avengers were. They were a team that could defeat a Soul King with all their members. Compared to this kind of battle team, the 10 people that Yang Lin brought along were like little brothers among little brothers. They simply couldn't be compared. Sir Dean, sorry to disturb you. After saying that, Yang Lin waved at the 10 people behind him and quickly walked out. He had just said that he wanted to challenge Lin Feng's apprentice. Now that he knew that the other party was the Avengers, he felt his face burning just by being with them. Leaving quickly was the wisest choice. When they left, there wasn't the slightest bit of unwillingness on Huang Qing's and the others' faces. Instead, they were filled with respect for experts and geniuses. Being able to defeat a Soul King at the age of 17 was simply too terrifying. It wasn't something they could hope to achieve. After they left, Feng Huai looked at the people in the room. The shock on his face did not dissipate for a long time. He never thought that Dr. Strange's disciples would be these 7 people. With the addition of the Avengers, their academy was basically locked in a championship this time. Everyone, please take a seat. After Feng Huai came back to his senses, he hurriedly got up and personally moved the chairs around the dean's office and placed them in front of the 8 people. No need to sit. Let's quickly go through the formalities. The competition is about to start, so let's give them some final training. Lin Feng said indifferently. Oh, okay, sir. Feng Huai spoke a little nervously. He didn't dare to delay and personally registered the 7 of them, writing their names, martial souls, and strength on the file. Their names and code names were the ones they used in the Great Soul Arena, and their martial souls were the same. As for their strength, it was level 45. This was also the strength data of the Great Soul Arena, which hadn't been updated for more than 2 months. In fact, the soul power fluctuations that Lin Feng's doppelganger had recently displayed were around rank 47. He could only defeat a Soul King through explosive power. Tang San and the others knew this because Master had asked Douluo to specifically investigate. With Douluo's eyesight, he was able to observe the true strength. Sir, the name of this battle team, is it called the Avengers? Feng Huai asked hesitantly. Lin Feng nodded. Okay, sir. Now that the registration has been completed, I have prepared rooms for you and your disciples. Feng Huai was very careful with Lin Feng and the others. From the teacher at the door to the subsequent room arrangements, he was very well prepared. But before he could finish his sentence, Lin Feng said indifferently, "No need. On the day of the competition, I will go to the Heaven Battle Soul arena." This, Feng Huai wanted to say something, but Lin Feng had already left with the 7 of them. Seeing this, Feng Huai hurriedly chased after them, but when he came out, Lin Feng and the others were already gone. Outside, there was still a group of people, but at this moment, this group of people were all looking in the direction of the academy's gate. There, Lin Feng and the 7 of them ran quickly and soon disappeared. Feng Huai took a look and returned to the dean's office. At this moment, he was the only one there. This time, he closed the door tightly and couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart, laughing loudly. This is the Avengers. Their Auckland family's name will spread across the entire continent in this competition. Heaven Battle Soul Arena was the venue of the competition in the Heaven-Do district. Now that it had been sealed, the inside was undergoing the final transformation. The renovation had started half a month ago, which was the second day after Lin Feng left. The renovation had just started. This wasn't the first time this place was used as a competition venue. Half a month was enough for the transformation to be completed. Now, there was still a week before the start of the competition. Many new faces came to Heaven-Do City, wearing all kinds of school uniforms. Lin Feng felt a sense of novelty when he looked at them. It was already afternoon by the time he returned to Heaven-Do City. After that, he took a tour of the fief and went to the Auckland Academy. It was now evening. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to return to the Shrek Academy. First, he had a good meal. Then, he disguised himself as Thanos and went to see Xue Qinghe. As soon as they met, Xue Qinghe brought Lin Feng a piece of good news. Because of the competition, 3 titled Douluo from the Martial Spirit Palace came to the Heaven-Do Empire. They were currently in the Balak Kingdom and the Haagen-Dazs Kingdom, probably make some deals with some academies. In any case, they would meet in Soto City the day after tomorrow and then go back to Martial Spirit City together. 3 titled Douluo. Chapter 317. The current Martial Spirit Palace was very complicated. The 3 titled represented the 3 major factions in the Martial Spirit Palace: the neutral faction, the religious emperor faction, and the opposition faction. Xue Qinghe gave Lin Feng 2 options. One was to lure one of the titled Douluo to Heaven-Do City. This way, Lin Feng could still fight with him. The other option was for Lin Feng to go to Soto City and find the 3 titled Douluo. This way, he could fight the 3 of them alone. Without hesitation, Lin Feng chose the second option. Wasn't the 3 times the experience reward good enough? 3 months ago, Ing Luan and Dugabo stopped giving Lin Feng experience points. Lin Feng didn't care about them. He wanted to see if they could recover a little in the future. Under such circumstances, the 3 times the experience reward was very tempting for Lin Feng. "Okay, you don't have to call that person over. I'll go over when the time comes," Lin Feng said. Xue Qinghe was happy to hear that. This way, he didn't have to talk. "Then I wish you a great victory." Xue Qinghe finally understood what Thanos was thinking. Every time this guy finished a fight with another titled Douluo, he would smile happily. This was a very competitive guy. Wishing him a great victory was definitely not a problem. "Is there anything else? If not, I'm leaving," Lin Feng said. "Sir, please wait a moment." Xue Qinghe hurriedly said, "I just heard that the Avengers have joined Oakland Academy. It seems that they're going to represent Oakland Academy in the competition. Is this a sign that the Marvel family is about to come out?" This was very important. If the Marvel family really appeared in the public eye, it would definitely be a force that would shock the entire continent. At the same time, Xue Qinghe could use this opportunity to see if he should choose a side completely. Over the past 6 months, he had been trying to betroth his sister to Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng didn't buy it all. If the Marvel family was really going to be on the surface this time, he would definitely be determined to join this family. Such a powerful force was enough to stop Bibi Dong from controlling him. The birth of the Marvel family? Lin Feng was stunned. Even he himself had not thought of this. Now that Xue Qinghe had pointed out, he fell into deep thought. But soon he shook his head. "No, it's just a few guys who came out to get some fresh air. Not many people know that they're from the Marvel family. I see. Xue Qinghe's expression darkened, but he quickly smiled and said, My lord, I've found that it's very difficult to get in touch with the people of your Marvel family. Do you have a token or something like that? That way, they won't hide from me. Now that he had worked with Lin Feng for a long time, Xue Qinghe's words were less fearful and more casual. This kind of feeling was pretty good. Lin Feng didn't want to be a high and mighty king. That would be too lonely. Token, there is, but if you want to get it, you have to complete a test. Lin Feng flipped his hand, and a quaint token appeared. There was only one word engraved on it. It was very simple. This was made by Lin Feng with 1,000 trickery ruler. With a little more soul power, it could last for 1 or 2 years without dissipating. If Lin Feng was within a certain distance, he could even transform it into a clone. What kind of test? Xue Qinghe said with a solemn face. He thought that this should be a very difficult test, and he was prepared to risk his life. However, Lin Feng looked around and then set his eyes on a plate of pastries. The test is, you have to finish that plate of pastries within a minute. You're not allowed to drink water or use soul power. Xue Qinghe. This plate of pastries wasn't too much, but it wasn't too little either. There were a total of 8. They were osmanthus pastries, but they were as big as mooncakes. This thing was very dry. Usually, one would have to drink water after eating 1 or 2. If one didn't drink water in a minute and couldn't use soul power, wasn't this just to embarrass him? No. Thanos was a titled Douluo. Why would he do something so boring? This must be some kind of special test. Eating the osmanthus pastries was also meaningful. Perhaps he could discover something magical after eating it. Just as Xue Qinghe was imagining the meaning of this test, Lin Feng thought to himself, Xue Qinghe will definitely choke after eating this. That scene will be very interesting. Sir, I will definitely complete the test. Xue Qinghe was full of energy. Let's begin, Lin Feng said. As soon as he finished speaking, Xue Qinghe didn't say anything else. He immediately ran to the pastries and started eating. At first, he ate half a piece in one bite. Later, he found that it was a bit slow, so he ate 1 piece in 1 bite. After eating 3 pieces, his mouth was very dry. It was a bit difficult to swallow. After 6 pieces, his mouth couldn't chew anymore. His stomach was also a bit full. 50 seconds had passed. He grabbed the last 2 pieces in his hands, one on the left and one on the right. Seeing that the time was about to end, he directly stuffed them into his mouth. This time his mouth was bulging. His face was slightly anxious as he chewed with all his might. That look was really interesting. Lin Feng's face under the mask was already full of smiles, especially when the other party didn't notice that he was secretly laughing. That was even more interesting. Douluo, did I offer my reward? Sir, did I succeed? Because he had eaten too much, Xue Qinghe's pronunciation was a bit off. You succeeded, Lin Feng said, and threw out the token at the same time. With this token, you could say a few words when you meet people from the Marvel family. After saying that, Lin Feng immediately left. After flying far away, he laughed out loud. On the spot, Xue Qinghe didn't spit out the pastries. Instead, he chewed for more than half a minute and finished everything. After eating, he carefully experienced the feeling just now. He felt that he could feel something special from the middle. Lord Thanos couldn't have just let him eat the osmanthus cake. There must be something deeper waiting for him to discover. Just like that, Xue Qinghe directly meditated and recalled the feeling just now. However, 5 minutes later, other than the osmanthus taste in his mouth, he didn't feel anything special. Could it be that the way to open it was wrong, or that the secret was in the token? Thinking about it, Xue Qinghe immediately began to check the token, wanting to find something from the middle. However, he tried more than 10 methods, but the token didn't react. Not only did this not make Xue Qinghe feel that the token was ordinary, but it made him even more curious. Because ordinary materials could be penetrated by soul power, but this one couldn't. It was very special in itself. Could it be that he had to grab the token and experience the feeling just now? Thinking about it, Xue Qinghe immediately held the token tightly and began to meditate again. 5 minutes later, hey, there it is. The osmanthus taste in his mouth was even stronger. Chapter 3:18. At night, Lin Feng didn't return to the academy. Instead, he went to the manor that Shui Yi had bestowed upon him when he was conferred his title. He hadn't been here much, not even a few times in half a year. Now that he was here, it was a bit desolate. However, Lin Feng didn't mind. He went to the bedroom and used his soul power to shake off the dust in the room. It looked brand new. Tonight, they would spend the night here. The next day, Lin Feng returned to the academy. Tomorrow was the day that the 3 titled battle pet warriors would meet up with Douluo in Soto City. The day of the competition was still to come, so Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry at all. When he arrived at the academy, the Grandmaster came to find him. "Yo, Grandmaster, you didn't study soul tools today?" Lin Feng joked. "The competition is about to start in a few days. How can I calm down and do research?" The Grandmaster said. Research was something that required a calm mind. If you couldn't calm down, you wouldn't be able to make any progress. "Xiao San and the others are back?" Lin Feng asked. "They're back. They're exhausted and are sleeping. It's all thanks to Mr. Destroy's protection that they were able to return safely." After a pause, the Grandmaster asked, "Is Mr. Destroy back? Did he tell you anything about the forest?" Tang San's experience was too abnormal. The Grandmaster felt that something might have happened in the forest. He asked Lin Feng about Thanos not because he suspected that Thanos was behind it, but because he wanted to know if he had noticed anything unusual. "No, he didn't tell me." Lin Feng shook his head. Lin Feng rarely showed his identity as Thanos in the academy. Usually, if the Grandmaster wanted to ask something, he would pass it on through Lin Feng. "No, then it's fine." The Grandmaster smiled. Then he said, "Yesterday, I heard that the Avengers joined Oakland Academy. Tomorrow, our Shrek Academy will be registering. Do you want to add your name?" The 7 members of the Avengers would participate in the competition, and Grandmaster Lin was already mentally prepared. Moreover, he had guessed that it would be Oakland Academy. Now that things had really happened, he wasn't too shocked. If this group didn't participate in the competition, it would have surprised the master. "I'm not participating. If I go up, it'll be pure bullying. This team is similar to Xiao San's team. Just go all out." Lin Feng shook his head. "That's good too. I won't help you register," the master said with a smile. If Lin Feng was a substitute, then Shrek Academy would definitely win the championship. But Grandmaster knew that this was not good for Tang San and the others. With Lin Feng at the back, they would think that since they were the final champions, they could just fight as they pleased. Without any pressure at all, they wouldn't grow much. Now that Lin Feng wasn't participating, it was good. The Avengers gave them enough pressure. Breaking through under pressure was what a genius should do. Even if they only got second place in the end, it wouldn't be a loss. Since Xiao San and the others are sleeping, then I won't call them. I'll be out for 2 days. I'll be back before the competition starts. With that, Lin Feng left. Grandmaster Lin looked at Lin Feng's back and sighed. Little Feng is getting more and more mysterious. This Thanos was so strong, and the relationship behind him was also very complicated. Even after so long, he still couldn't guess which force Thanos belonged to. He appeared out of thin air without any signs. It was too mysterious. Nowadays, Lin Feng went out frequently. Every time he left, it would be for a few days. Grandmaster Lin and the others couldn't figure him out. After Lin Feng left the Shrek Academy, he went south to Soto City. Soto City was the closest city to the martial spirit city. It was reasonable for the 3 titled battle pet warriors of the martial spirit palace to gather there. Douluo. Lin Feng was fast. When he arrived at Soto City, he had just gone to have lunch. Now, all he had to do was wait. They would definitely gather at the martial spirit branch palace. Starting tomorrow morning, Lin Feng would have to stay here. But he still had some free time today. Lin Feng went to the original address of the Shrek Academy. After some thought, Lin Feng went back to the Holy Spirit Village. When he was in Nodding City, Lin Feng would go back to visit Grandmaster Jack every 2 months. After coming to the Shrek Academy, he had been too busy, so he didn't have time to visit Grandmaster Jack. He missed him so much. This time he could go back and visit him. After being nurtured by Lin Feng's life force, Grandmaster Jack's body was very strong. He walked from the Holy Spirit Village to Nodding City without panting. Grandmaster Jack's lifelong dream was to become a soul master who could cultivate. Unfortunately, he didn't have innate soul power, so he couldn't cultivate. In the past, Lin Feng couldn't do it. But now, he could give it a try. The elixir in his body was condensed into essence, which had the effect of changing fate. If Grandmaster Jack ate it, it was possible for him to cultivate his soul power. It didn't matter if it didn't work. At least, it could make Grandmaster Jack's body stronger. It wouldn't be a problem for him to live for another 20 years. The Holy Spirit Village was much more prosperous than before. Grandmaster Jack's body was strong and full of energy. With Lin Feng's help, he developed the Holy Spirit Village vigorously. The village's GDP reached new highs every year. The villagers' faces were brimming with happy smiles. Lin Feng didn't find Grandmaster Jack at home. He found him in the farmland to the west of the village. Grandmaster Jack was leading a group of villagers to do irrigation works there. When he saw Lin Feng coming over, Grandmaster Jack was stunned. Then, he ran over with a happy face. "Xiao Fo, you're back. Let's go home. I'll cook something good for you." Grandmaster Jack knew that he was very dirty. He didn't touch Lin Feng. Instead, he waved at the people behind him with a happy face. "Continue with your work. My grandson is back. I'm happy. I'll go home first." After saying that, he led Lin Feng back with a happy face. Lin Feng, this grandson, was Grandmaster Jack's pride. In the village, he often talked about Lin Feng. Now, they were on the way back to the village. As long as he met someone, he would proudly say, "My grandson is back." At this time, the villagers would praise Lin Feng. Lin Feng would also respond with a smile. Then, under the envious gazes of others, the two of them walked in the direction of their home. This feeling was very strange. Now that he was back, he was like a university student in his previous life who returned home in glory. Everyone in the village would praise him when they saw him. Grandmaster Jack's smile that came from the bottom of his heart, the villagers' unadorned words. Everything seemed so simple and unpretentious. Lin Feng felt a sense of peace that he had not felt for a long time. Here, he didn't need to think about anything. What system, experience points, soul rings, Douluo title, etc., none of these would appear in his mind. He only needed to eat a few home-cooked dishes that Grandmaster Jack made for him. Everything was very blissful. Chapter 319. Grandpa Jack, this is something good I found in the forest. I brought it back especially for you to eat. After eating, Lin Feng took out an immortal medicine essence that was emitting a faint light from his bosom. This was something he had specially made. It contained a minute amount of medicinal power, and Lin Feng had diluted it. Even if old Jack's body was just an ordinary person, he could still absorb it. As long as he ate this, old Jack should be able to produce soul power if it was effective. Forest? What forest? Is it dangerous? After hearing Lin Feng's words, old Jack immediately asked, "It's not dangerous. This is a fruit from the forest. It's very delicious. I brought it back especially for you to eat. I've already eaten a lot." Lin Feng knew what old Jack was thinking. It was just like how he would return the gold coins he had given him back then. Old Jack only thought about himself. He would give the good things to himself, and he would just make do with it. If that's the case, then I'll try one. Old Jack took it and ate it. If Lin Feng hadn't said that he had eaten a lot, old Jack wouldn't have been so straightforward. He would have let Lin Feng eat it. Oh, old Jack was stunned. He discovered that soul power seemed to have appeared in his body. Why did he use the word seemed? It was because he had never experienced what soul power felt like. He had only heard others describe it. Right now, his body seemed to have this feeling of soul power. The small fruit he had eaten just now was warm in his body, and a special energy was emitting from it. After a while, old Jack came back to his senses and said with a trembling voice, "Little Feng, what did you give me to eat just now? It seems like soul power has appeared in my body." Old Jack wasn't stupid. He could feel that the fruit should be something good, but Lin Feng had given it to him to eat. It's just a small fruit that can increase soul power. Soul masters often eat it. I still have a lot here. As he spoke, Lin Feng flipped his hand, and a large amount of immortal medicine essence emitting a faint light appeared in his palm. Although old Jack knew a lot, he wasn't a true soul master. He hadn't gone through systematic training, so he didn't know much about this kind of thing. Originally, he thought that it was very precious. After all, he had heard that things that could increase one's soul power were all super treasures. However, when he saw Lin Feng casually take out so many items, this thought immediately dissipated. So that's how it is. I thought you gave me something precious to eat, little Feng. Old Jack let out a sigh of relief. He knew about Lin Feng's filial piety. In the past, he often brought him good things. However, he knew that those things were very precious, so he rejected most of them. The child was still young, and there were many ways to spend money. He would save as much as he could. Grandpa Jack, eat a few more. Eat this to warm your body. With that, Lin Feng grabbed 5 and put them over. It wasn't that Lin Feng wasn't willing to give more, but that 6 was old Jack's current limit. If he ate any more, his body wouldn't be able to take it. This thing is not bad. It'll keep you warm in winter, and you'll have more energy for work. Old Jack took the 5 fruits. After that, he asked, Little Feng, this soul power has appeared. Will it dissipate soon? According to Lin Feng, this thing should be a very common thing. The soul power that increased like this should also be a one-time thing, which was why old Jack asked. Grandpa Jack, finish eating first. You'll know once you finish eating these 5, Lin Feng said with a smile. Finish eating? Old Jack didn't think much and ate the 5 immortal medicine essences in one bite. He was now more curious if this soul power was a one-time thing. If it was, then it was nothing. If that's not the case, does that mean he's also a soul master? Could he cultivate? With this thought, the soul power in old Jack's body suddenly increased rapidly. Soul Scholar Level 1, Level 5, Level 8, Level 10. In a breath's time, old Jack's soul power rank reached Level 10. Old Jack opened his eyes with a stupefied expression. Little Feng, my soul power seems to have reached Level 10. His hands trembled slightly, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. He had asked around and knew what it was like to have a Level 10 soul power. He felt his body swell as soul power gathered in his body. Grandpa Jack, this soul power can be retained. You're now Level 10. As long as you obtain a soul ring, you can break through and become a soul master. Lin Feng said with a smile. Really? Old Jack's face was full of disbelief. His lifelong dream had suddenly come true. Old Jack felt like he was in a dream. Grandpa Jack, I'll take you to the forest to hunt a 100-year soul beast. Your martial soul is a carrot, and soul beasts are easy to find. Hearing this, old Jack quickly said, I heard that 100-year soul beasts are very powerful. Even a soul elder might not be able to deal with them. Little Feng, it's still too dangerous for you to go. We could just kill a 10-year soul beast. He had heard people say that 10-year soul beasts weren't strong. Basically, any soul master could kill them. Lin Feng had been in the Soul Master Academy for 7 years, so he should have reached the Soul Grandmaster rank. Such a powerful soul master could still kill a 10-year soul beast. Don't worry, Grandpa Jack. I'm already a soul elder. A 100-year soul beast won't be a problem. Without any explanation, Lin Feng brought old Jack in the direction of Notting City. To the southwest of Notting City was the Mani Forest. Some soul masters who couldn't afford to go to the soul hunting forest would come here to try their luck. There were usually 10-year soul beasts here, and 100-year soul beasts were rare. The Holy Soul Village was no longer the same as before. There were horses in the village. The two of them only spent an hour or so to arrive at the Mani Forest. On the surface, the two of them had just arrived at the forest, but in reality, Lin Feng's clone had already entered the depths of the forest. Not long after, he searched the entire forest and found a soul beast that was more suitable for old Jack. It was around 350 years. Just like that, Lin Feng quickly brought old Jack in front of the soul beast. Then, he bluntly knocked the soul beast out with a punch and threw it in front of old Jack. This. Old Jack's face was full of shock. Lin Feng, this is too strong. He'd been able to send the 10-year soul beast flying with a single kick, and this 6-year soul beast had been knocked unconscious with a single punch. They hadn't encountered any danger along the way, so the time they'd taken to get here was extremely short. But he had heard others say that it was extremely difficult for soul masters to obtain soul rings, and that it was filled with danger. Why did it seem like the actual situation was somewhat different from what he had heard? Seeing old Jack in a daze, Lin Feng took out a small knife from somewhere and handed it over. Grandpa Jack, quickly kill this old beast and absorb its soul ring. Oh. Old Jack received the small knife with a dumbfounded expression and killed the soul beast in a daze. Then he started to absorb the soul ring in a daze. Chapter 320. It was only a 100-year soul ring. Old Jack's physical fitness wasn't any worse than an ordinary soul grandmaster's, so his absorption speed was very fast. After absorbing the soul ring, the power that was originally gathered in his body, in addition to the power of the soul ring, once again charged towards his soul power rank. Level 11, Level 13, Level 15. Finally, it stopped at Level 17. Feeling the soul power fluctuations in his body, old Jack didn't know what to say. No matter how slow he was, he knew that the thing that Lin Feng gave him to eat was definitely very precious and wasn't as common as he said. Casually eating a few could turn an ordinary person into a soul master. If it was really that common, there would definitely be more soul masters on the continent than ordinary people. Little Feng, tell me the truth. What were those things that you gave me to eat before? Is it some incredible treasure? Old Jack asked solemnly. It really isn't a treasure. Look, I still have a lot on me. Lin Feng flipped his hand, and it was full of fruits again. Ordinary soul masters can't come into contact with this kind of fruit, but I'm different. I'm a genius, so I can come into contact with it. Moreover, ordinary people can't eat too much of this fruit. If they eat too much, they'll be poisoned. Lin Feng was casually bluffing, since old Jack didn't understand these things anyway. Really, seeing Lin Feng speak so truthfully, old Jack was suspicious again. Of course. Grandpa Jack, don't worry. I eat this like candy. With that, Lin Feng casually ate a few. So that's how it is. Seeing this, old Jack was completely relieved. Putting aside whether this thing was precious or not, Lin Feng had a lot of fruits in his hands, so eating a few was nothing. However, this thing was really magical. It actually allowed him to become a soul master. It was too terrifying. Just like that, Lin Feng fooled old Jack, and then the two returned to the Holy Soul Village together. Grandpa Jack, this is the meditation technique I wrote for you. Just practice according to it. Also, don't tell anyone about the fruit and your current strength. Otherwise, you'll be envied. Lin Feng carefully instructed before leaving. Don't worry, I know. Old Jack waved his hand. After all, old Jack was an old man, and he understood the ways of the world very well. He was very clear about what Lin Feng said. Lin Feng was also very relieved about this. After giving his instructions, he also left the house. Old Jack had always been talking about soul masters. Now, Lin Feng had fulfilled one of his dreams. When he became stronger in the future, perhaps it would be easy for ordinary people to become gods. On the road outside the Holy Soul Village, Lin Feng turned around and took a deep look at the village that had accompanied him for many years. After that, he rushed into the sky and headed straight for Soto City. The Holy Spirit Village was a memory. As long as he stayed there, Lin Feng could feel the beauty of life. Everything was very relaxing. After leaving the Holy Spirit Village, the outside world was reality. Lin Feng needed to earn experience points and work hard to become stronger. Soto City. The 3 title battle pet warriors, Douluo. That was his next target. After arriving in the city, Lin Feng left a small piece of the 1,000 trickery ruler at each city gate and in the martial spirit palace. After making this preparation, Lin Feng found a hotel and slept peacefully. The next day, Lin Feng directly separated from his avatar after waking up. They stood on opposite sides of the city. After the soul rings were strengthened, Lin Feng's physical attributes were also strengthened. In addition to the increase in multitasking, Lin Feng's spiritual power was very strong now. The distance between him and his avatar had increased to 3 kilometers. As for his avatar, the distance between him and his avatar had increased to 6 kilometers. His avatar and his original body stood in different positions. In addition to the avatar that he placed earlier, he could control a rectangular space that was 12 kilometers long and 6 kilometers wide. Of course, Soto City wasn't that big. Lin Feng and his avatar only needed to be 3 kilometers apart to cover the entire city. Under the surveillance of his doppelganger, Lin Feng was well aware of the situation of the city gates and the martial spirit palace. In the morning, a tidal battle pet warrior, Douluo, arrived at the west gate. That was the first tidal battle pet warrior of the day. In less than an hour, another tidal battle pet warrior, Douluo, arrived at the west gate. The third tidal battle pet warrior, Douluo, had been waiting for a long time. It was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the third tidal battle pet warrior arrived from the north gate. During that time, Lin Feng overheard the conversation between the two tidal battle pet warriors Douluo. One of them was Qingyun Douluo, and the other was Wing Douluo. They were both elders of the martial spirit palace, and they were talking about the competition. Lin Feng didn't pay attention to that. What he cared about was their strength. He didn't know the specifics, but he could tell that they hadn't reached the 95 rank yet. As for their martial souls, given the lovable nature of soul masters on the continent of Douluo, their titles must have something to do with their martial souls. One of the tidal battle pet warriors was Wing, so his martial soul must be a bird. The other one was Qingyun, which was a bit hard to guess. Was his martial soul a cloud? Was it a mutation? Either way, those two weren't that strong. The last one to arrive from the North Gate was about the same level as the first two. As for his title, he was Douluo the White Ape. Lin Feng knew right away that his martial soul was the White Ape. That was silly. He would know what the enemy's martial soul was right away. It would be hard for him to catch the enemy off guard. No wonder it was so difficult for tidal battle pet warriors to kill Douluo in the original work. Every one of them knew everything about themselves. As for the name Thanos, they couldn't relate it to anything. They didn't know what his martial soul was, and they had never seen it before. Therefore, when he used the name Thanos, his opponents would be caught off guard. If they wanted to kill him, they could do so easily. Why do I feel like I'm a villain? He couldn't say that. He could only say that people in this world were too naive. He was just a little bit normal. The White Ape Douluo didn't seem to be on good terms with the other two tidal Douluo. After the three tidal Douluo met up, they didn't talk much. Instead, they left through the southern gate and headed towards Martial Spirit City. The corners of Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly when he saw this. As he recalled his clone and incarnation, he chased after them. The three tidal battle pet warriors under the level of 95 were quite powerful when they worked together. Not even a tidal battle pet warrior at the level of 97 would be able to defeat them. If Lin Feng were to fight with only his clone or clone, he might have been entangled for a long time if the enemy was Douluo, a control-type tidal battle pet warrior. But this time, Lin Feng didn't plan to fight alone. He would go with his clone. The two of them could crush the three tidal battle pet warriors together. With that thought in mind, Lin Feng followed the three. He would strike as soon as he was far away from Soto City. After all, there are many towns and cities around the city. To avoid unnecessary casualties, it would be better for him to strike from a distance. Chapter 321. After following them for about 10 kilometers, Lin Feng calculated that the distance was about right. He summoned his avatar and used all kinds of soul skills to charge in front of the three of them. Lin Feng's original body also became like his avatar. He flew behind the three of them, forming a pincer attack. His original body and avatar's aura were very strong, and they didn't hide at all. When he rushed over, the three of them had already discovered him. They summoned their martial souls and were ready for battle. At this moment, Lin Feng discovered that their martial souls were as he expected. One was a golden eagle, one was an icewind white ape, and one was really a cloud. It was green, and it should be a mutated martial soul. Thanos! Douluo Qingyun exclaimed. As a member of the Pope's faction, Qingyun knew about Thanos. He had even seen his portrait. The Pope had even told him about him. The other two didn't recognize Lin Feng, but their expressions changed when they heard this name. They had heard of Thanos' name. He had fought against 11 soul Douluo by himself, and he had even severely injured a hidden titled Douluo from the Heaven-Do Empire with a single strike. All these achievements were telling the story of Thanos' overlord strength. Now that they had encountered Thanos, their hearts sank. However, before they could say anything, another powerful aura came from behind them. Behind them, another powerful aura rapidly approached. When the three of them turned around to take a look, their jaws dropped. Another Thanos? The three of them felt dizzy at this time. It was fine if one Thanos had appeared, but why was there a second one? Their auras were exactly the same. They were so strong that it was suffocating. Only a few people knew that Lin Feng had avatars. Perhaps Ying Luan knew, but he wasn't sure. What he saw might be Lin Feng's afterimage because he was moving too fast, which was normal. Because of this, apart from Douluo, no one in the outside world knew that Lin Feng had the ability to clone himself. "You three, why don't you play with me?" Lin Feng said with a smile. "Thanos, we are from the Martial Spirit Palace. Aren't you afraid that the Martial Spirit Palace will start a war with the Shrek Academy by ambushing us?" Qin Yin shouted. Thanos alone was enough to pressure the three of them. After all, Thanos was too strong. At this time, there were two Thanos. The three of them felt that their lives might be in danger, so they were a little nervous. "If you can represent the Martial Spirit Palace, then let's fight," Lin Feng said calmly. Using the identity of Thanos, he was not afraid of these things at all. He even hoped that the Martial Spirit Palace would do something because it could give him more experience. He wasn't going to kill anyone, so what was wrong with beating up a few people? It was impossible for the Martial Spirit Palace to start a war with the Shrek Academy just because a few of them had been beaten up. It was more likely that they had been killed. After all, if they wanted to fight the Shrek Academy, they still had to get past Emperor Shui Yi. Otherwise, if the Shrek Academy, as the honorary academy of the Heaven-Do Empire, was beaten up by the Martial Spirit Palace, where would Shui Yi put his face? Do you really think that the Martial Spirit Palace doesn't dare to start a war? You're going too far. White Ape Douluo had a fiery temper, and his voice was a little louder. Lin Feng picked his ear. "I didn't say that you don't dare start a war." The White Ape Douluo. Of course, he didn't really want to start a war. He just wanted to threaten Lin Feng and let them go. However, Lin Feng didn't follow the procedure at all. He wasn't worried at all, and he even took the initiative to start a war. For a moment, the three of them were confused. They couldn't figure out why Lin Feng wanted to ambush them at this time. He wasn't afraid of starting a war, and he even looked like he was about to start one. What did this mean? Was the Heaven-Do Empire going to make the first move, starting with the three of them? Or perhaps Martial Spirit City had already been surrounded? Was the final battle about to start? The relationship between the Heaven-Do Empire and the Martial Spirit Palace had always been very delicate. They resisted and restrained each other. It was expected that a war would break out one day. Therefore, the three of them had no choice but to prepare for the worst when Lin Feng ambushed them. If a huge battle were to break out, the Continental Elite Soul Master Academy tournament would become a complete joke. Seeing that the three of them were deep in thought, Lin Feng didn't waste any more time. His main body and avatar rushed forward, and the battle was about to start. Although the three of them were deep in thought, they were all focused on Lin Feng. When they saw Lin Feng attacking, the three of them immediately reacted. Douluo roared, and the first 6 soul rings on his body lit up. His body grew larger, and he attacked Lin Feng's avatar. Douluo's avatar appeared behind his back, and he let out a shrill cry. He quickly attacked Lin Feng's main body. As for Qin Yun, he seemed to be a control-type titled Soul Master. The green cloud in his hand grew larger and split into two. They turned into 2 balls of fog that enveloped the 2 sides of the battlefield. At the same time, he attacked Lin Feng's avatar. Douluo was an agility-type Soul Master. Douluo was very fast, and the three of them planned to let Douluo entangle one of them, while Qin Yun and White Ape attacked the other one. They wanted to end it quickly. It had to be said that Qin Yun's soul skill was very strange. These 2 balls of green cloud only followed Lin Feng and didn't affect White Ape or Wing at all. He was hit a few times, and the shield on his body was full of cracks. Interesting. Lin Feng laughed and released the 2 soul skills of his wind dragon left leg bone. At the same time, the 2 huge tornadoes had already dispersed the cloud. Qing Yun's expression changed, and his 9th soul ring suddenly lit up. Strong soul power fluctuations spread out, enveloping the surroundings. Lin Feng's avatar felt the fog around him increase, and then it enveloped him. Lin Feng knew that this should be an extremely powerful control-type soul skill. Even though he was a wind dragon avatar, he couldn't avoid it, and his body became sluggish. He wanted to teleport away, but the white ape released its 8th soul ring and let out a deafening roar. The space around them became viscous, and Lin Feng's body became extremely heavy. Lin Feng's avatar couldn't teleport away. Not only couldn't he teleport, but he couldn't even use his nether body. In the next second, the fog turned into ice, and Lin Feng was frozen. This kind of freezing didn't seem to be as simple as freezing the body. Even the soul power in his body and even his thoughts were frozen for a moment. Originally, Lin Feng could have dodged this soul skill. However, he had underestimated this soul skill. His reaction had been wrong from the start. Furthermore, one wrong step led to many wrong steps. Coupled with the tacit understanding between the 2 of them, one after another, he finally fell for it. However, this freezing time was very short because Lin Feng was too strong. Qing Yun could only freeze Lin Feng for a second at most. Although 1 second was a short time, it was enough for White Ape to deal a fatal blow. Chapter 322. Taking advantage of the moment when Lin Feng's avatar was frozen, White Ape roared furiously and punched out. His target was Lin Feng's chest. Bam! Without any obstruction, White Ape's fist landed on Tang Wulin's avatar. Like a kite with a broken string, Lin Feng's body flew out rapidly. His chest caved in visibly, and his protective barrier was already broken. With such serious injuries, unless there was a healing-type soul master who was at least a soul sage who immediately used his martial soul true body to treat him, he would definitely die. Seeing this scene, Qing Yun and White Ape heaved a sigh of relief. That was a close call. If White Ape had been a little slower and Lin Feng reacted, the 2 of them would have been in trouble. After all, Qing Yun had just used his 9th soul skill, and his soul power was unstable. If Lin Feng got close to him, he would definitely die. Now that White Ape had dealt a fatal blow, the situation was immediately reversed. Thanos, your brother is already dead. Why aren't you retreating? Douluo shouted. Thanos was too strong. Douluo felt that Thanos was just toying with him and didn't use his full strength at all. Even though the other person was severely injured and on the verge of death, he didn't relax at all. His main goal was to make Thanos retreat. The main reason was that Thanos was too calm. It was as if the other person's death had nothing to do with him. Don't let him go. If we kill Thanos today, it will be a great achievement. White Ape ran over and started attacking Lin Feng's body. The higher-ups of the Martial Soul Hall had a very high assessment of Thanos' danger. If they could kill him, they would be able to obtain a lot of benefits when they returned. Qing Yun wasn't in a hurry to come over. His mission was to ensure the death of the severely injured Thanos. His injuries were very serious. He was paralyzed on the ground, and his chest was almost flattened. He didn't move at all, as if he was already dead. But for some reason, Qing Yun was a little uneasy. He felt that it was too easy for the 2 of them to kill Thanos. Although the 2 of them cooperated well, and even used their 9th soul skill, it was still an ultimate killing move. With such cooperation, even the Dusty Heart would have to suffer. However, Qing Yun knew that for Thanos to be able to defeat Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo, his strength should be above level 98. Being strong didn't mean that he was invincible. He had seen Soul Douluo kill Soul Douluo, who was at rank 95. But at this moment, it was so fast that Qing Yun felt that it was somewhat unreal. Just as this thought popped up in his mind, the seriously injured Thanos suddenly moved, as if in response to his conjecture. It was completely unreasonable. That Thanos directly teleported in front of him and knocked him to the ground with a punch. He didn't even have the chance to react before he was severely injured and fell to the ground. By the time he reacted, Thanos was already standing beside him. The wounds on his body had all healed within a breath's time. To be precise, it wasn't called healing. It was just a concentration of soul power. Lin Feng's incarnation wasn't made of flesh and blood. It didn't have any vital points at all. His chest being flattened was not much different from his hand being broken. Just now, he was paralyzed on the ground because the white ape's punch had temporarily dissipated his thoughts. In addition, the soul power in his body had stagnated, so he had slowed down. Now that he had recovered, he immediately took action and subdued Qing Yun. But at the same time, he was also a little shocked. On this Douluo continent, there were really many strange martial souls. This Qing Yun martial soul's 9th soul skill was actually so strange that it could even imprison one's thoughts. And the white ape Douluo's 8th soul skill could freeze space. If these soul skills were thrown on Lin Feng's main body just now, he reckoned nothing would happen at all. What a joke! He had trained in the Great Soul Arena for so long with the purpose of seeing all kinds of martial souls. Although he had never seen Qing Yun's martial soul, he could roughly guess some of its abilities. Knowing that there was danger, Lin Feng wasn't stupid. Of course, he would dodge and advance. It was also because his incarnation was resistant and not afraid of death that Lin Feng was a little bolder and didn't dodge immediately. If it was his main body, he would have run away long ago. What? He didn't die. White Ape sensed the movement behind him and was shocked. His punch was absolutely fatal, but Thanos was fine. How is this possible? Douluo on the side was also very shocked, but he didn't get distracted and continued to exchange blows with Lin Feng. Suddenly, Lin Feng dodged, avoiding Douluo's attack, and punched towards White Ape's stomach. Take a punch from me too. Watch me feed you until you're full. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lin Feng's uppercut sent White Ape directly into the sky. This guy, if it wasn't for Lin Feng not wanting to kill, this White Ape would have died today. However, White Ape was already on Lin Feng's blacklist. Since he dared to kill him, he would directly kill him after squeezing his experience dry. Today, I'll beat you up first. Thinking of this, Lin Feng didn't hold back anymore. He went all out and beat White Ape until he cried for his father and mother. The other two were also beaten up. Anyway, they were all seriously injured and looked desperate. Originally, Lin Feng had wanted to play with him properly. After all, the longer the battle lasted, the more experience he would gain. Unfortunately, White Ape and Green Cloud were not sensible enough. They actually dared to use their ultimate skills right from the start, making him unhappy. And if he wasn't happy, the three of them wouldn't be happy either. After the three of them were seriously injured, Lin Feng tied them up and then used the ruler to turn into a big spinning top, trapping them inside. Then, Lin Feng condensed a huge whip and whipped the spinning top. The three people inside were in a lot of pain, but couldn't say anything. They thought that Lin Feng would kill them, but he didn't want to kill them at all. Instead, he grabbed them and beat them up, not letting them stop. The three of them were trapped inside the spinning top, and they were about to throw up. After an indeterminate amount of time, the spinning top suddenly disappeared. The three of them fell to the ground and finally saw the light again. While they were celebrating their new lease on life, Lin Feng had left Soto City. This time, he tried his best to prolong the battle. In the end, the three title battle pet warriors gave him more than 67 million experience points. At the beginning, Douluo, who was at level 91, only gave him 10 million experience points. Among the three, the highest level was only at level 93. Together, the three of them gave him almost 70 million experience points, which was a lot. Lin Feng's experience points had exceeded 600 million. That was a good start. During the competition, many forces would take action. By then, it would be normal for Soul Douluo to go out and Title Douluo would show up from time to time. As long as Lin Feng was well informed, he could go around looking for people to fight during the competition. He could cooperate with Xue Qinghe and use the intelligence network of the Heaven Do Empire and of the Martial Spirit Palace. It would be easy for him to find out. Chapter 323. Not long after Lin Feng returned to Heaven Do City, Qing Yun and the other two also returned to Martial Spirit City. They reported this matter to the Pope. After all, this was a big matter that concerned the entire Martial Spirit Hall. Even if they were from different factions, their goals were very similar. However, this matter was just as Lin Feng had expected. The Pope didn't care at all. What a joke. How could Bibi Dong care now? On one hand, they didn't have enough manpower. On the other hand, the tournament was about to start. Their Martial Spirit Hall was the main organizer of the tournament. Bibi Dong couldn't ruin their own reputation. In the end, this matter was left unsettled. The three of them could only suffer this loss. White Ape Douluo was very angry. He was beaten the most miserably. However, just as Lin Feng said, he couldn't represent the Martial Spirit Hall alone. Start a war? He wasn't worthy. The atmosphere in Heaven-Do City was very lively. The Continental Elite Academy Tournament was a grand event. Many people from duchies and kingdoms came to watch the tournament. Some factions also came to watch. If they liked someone, they would directly poach them. Speaking of which, this tournament was a bit like a continental job fair. Students who participated were usually those who were about to graduate. All the factions in the continent came to watch the tournament. Those who performed well would be recruited by some factions. The last few most talented teams would be recruited by the Seven Treasures Glaze Sect and the Martial Spirit Hall. This kind of grand event was very popular on the continent. The tournament would officially start the day after tomorrow. During these 2 days, the Grand Master had been analyzing the tournament for Tang San and the others. He analyzed the teams, the tournament rules, the tournament format, and finally the Avengers. The teams were the teams of the various academies. Currently, in the Grand Master's eyes, other than the Avengers, the other teams weren't too good. However, the Grand Master also said that even if they were facing a team full of Soul Elders, they had to be vigilant and pay full attention. Being weak didn't mean that they would definitely lose. What if they had unexpected moves? The rules of the tournament were more relaxed. Each team had 10 people. 7 of them were the main force, and 3 were substitutes. The participants were required to be under the age of 25. During the tournament, they had to avoid deliberately injuring their opponents. If they killed their opponents, they would be directly kicked out of the tournament. During the tournament, team members weren't allowed to consume any medicine or food that wasn't made by a food-type Soul Master. Furthermore, the food had to be made by a plant-type Soul Master who was on stage. In addition, they were not allowed to use hidden weapons or other external weapons. Everyone could only use their own martial souls. This sort of competition was very fair, and it was also very safe. Under the limitations of one's abilities, each Soul Master's superb techniques could be displayed. That was the rules of the competition. Next was the competition format. This year's competition was divided into 3 stages: the preliminaries, the promotion stage, and the finals. It was similar to the LOL competitions in his previous life. There were bubble matches, qualifiers, knockouts, finals, and finals. The competition was split into 2 large regions, Heaven-Do and Douluo. Each large region was further divided into several smaller regions, according to the situation within the empire. The Heaven-Do Empire had a total of 6 subregions, 4 kingdoms and 1 dukedom. Each of these 5 regions had a subregion, and the last main subregion was within Heaven-Do City. Every competition zone had 16 qualifying spots. One of the guaranteed spots was occupied by a team from the Heaven-Do Imperial Academy. Originally, the Snowy Night Emperor wanted to give this spot to the Shrek Academy. However, it was only a thought, and he didn't give it away. Apart from this guaranteed spot, the Heaven-Do Empire's 6 subregions would compete for these 15 qualifying spots. As the main subregion, the Heaven-Do Empire's main subregion had 5 qualifying spots. After that, these 15 qualifying teams would compete in a ranking tournament in Heaven-Do City. After determining the strength of each team, they would set off together and head to Martial Spirit City to participate in the finals. When the time came, the entire continent's attention would be focused on Martial Spirit City. The final victor of this competition would be decided there. That was the general format of the competition. There would be some slight differences in the flow of the competition, and sometimes there would be individual battles. However, these were all trivial matters. Tang San and the others didn't think much about the competition format. It didn't matter how complicated it was. In any case, as long as they kept winning, everything else didn't matter. Grandmaster Tang originally thought that Shrek's 7 monster strength was enough to crush all the previous teams. There was no need to hide their strength in this competition. Their opponents didn't even have the qualifications to use their full strength. All they had to do was crush them. However, after the Avengers joined the competition, this idea immediately changed. In the face of such experts, Grandmaster Tang felt that it was better to hide their strength. They couldn't reveal too much of their strength and tactics. Otherwise, if their opponents saw them and targeted them, they would be in a bad situation. Thus, Grandmaster Tang decided to use a conservative strategy for this competition. All 7 of them could participate, but they couldn't use their full strength. At most, they could only use half of their strength. If they defeated other teams, they couldn't win easily. They had to pretend to win with difficulty. If they met the Avengers, they had to admit defeat. They didn't want to reveal their strength. In any case, the Heaven Do Empire's 7 monsters only had 5 qualifying spots. Grandmaster Tang only needed to obtain one of them. There was no need to compete. Even the top 15, they didn't need to display too much of their strength. They just needed to hide it well. In any case, as long as they showed up, they would be able to enter the finals. They didn't need to care about anything else. They just needed to display their true strength in the finals. Furthermore, Grandmaster Tang guessed that the Martial Spirit Hall's team should be very strong. They had to be careful. If they were weak, everyone would focus on the Avengers and the Martial Spirit Hall. That would be the best result for Shrek Academy. The last analysis of the Avengers couldn't be considered an analysis because Grandmaster Tang had already done it. Now that the competition was about to begin, he was just summarizing it. More importantly, they needed to gather information during the competition. They needed to see how the Avengers fought. The more they revealed, the more information Grandmaster Tang and the others would get. This way, they would have a greater chance of winning in the future. If the Avengers changed their fierce fighting style and chose to hide their strength, it would be difficult for them because they wouldn't be able to gather any information. However, Grandmaster Tang and the others still had an advantage. Although Shrek's 7 monsters had a lot of attention, they were still inferior to the Avengers. As long as they kept a low profile, they would be able to catch them off guard. Chapter 3:24. When Lin Feng returned to the academy, Tang San and the rest were discussing tactics with the masters. The competition was approaching. Although they said that they weren't nervous and that it would be fine to just play casually, they were still very nervous when the competition was about to begin. Now that they were discussing tactics, they were very careful. Hey, Fenggu is back. Xiaowu happened to raise her head and was the first to notice Lin Feng walking towards them. Fenggu, you're finally back. I missed you so much. We haven't seen each other for half a month. Fenggu, I missed you so much too. For a moment, everyone leaned over enthusiastically. After greeting each other, everyone's enthusiasm slowly dissipated. Fenggu, I heard from the master that you won't be joining us in the competition? Ning Rongrong asked. Yeah, this competition is of no use to me. These teams are too weak. One punch for one person. If I were to participate, I would be bullying them, Lin Feng said with a smile. Everyone, although this was the truth, it was too heart-wrenching. Fenggu, the Avengers are also participating. They are very strong. Don't you want to fight with them? Xiaowu asked, blinking her big eyes. No. Lin Feng shook his head. Xiaowu was speechless. Originally, she wanted to persuade Lin Feng to participate. After all, the participants could still be changed before the competition started. Who would have thought that, just as she opened her mouth, Lin Feng directly interrupted her with a sentence. You guys continue to discuss tactics. I'm a little sleepy. I'm going to sleep first. In order to prevent these guys from inviting him to participate, Lin Feng found an excuse to slip away. Everyone felt that it was a pity, but Lin Feng not participating was within their expectations. Soon, they continued to discuss tactics with the masters. Just like that, 2 days passed in a flash. Today was the first day of the qualifiers for the Continental Elite Academy Tournament. The city was bustling with noise and excitement. Countless people were heading to the Heaven Fighting Soul Arena to witness the opening ceremony. Before the start of the competition, there would be an exhibition for each academy. The teams of the participating academies would enter from the main entrance. The surrounding citizens were extremely excited to be able to interact with these young soul masters, and they cheered incessantly. It was about time, and the various academies had already begun to enter the arena. Grandmaster and the others had also brought Shrek's 7 monsters and a few substitutes to the entrance and were preparing to enter the arena. Not far away, Feng Huai was personally accompanying Aqua Magic School. Beside him were 7 masked members of the Avengers Alliance in different attire. That, Captain Steve, masks are not allowed in the competition, Feng Huai said. In order to ensure fairness, as well as to prevent overage students from participating, masks were not allowed during the competition. Steve glanced at Feng Huai, then nodded. In the next second, the 7 of them took off their masks at the same time, revealing their handsome faces. At that moment, the surrounding people couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts, "This is too cool." Feng Huai was also stunned for a moment. Then he said, "Captain Steve, Aqua Magic School has provided 3 substitutes for you. I wonder if no need. The 7 of us are enough." Saul interrupted before he could finish his sentence. His voice was extremely domineering. Steve smiled. "Dean Fong, you just need to be our team leader. You don't have to worry about anything else." "Okay." Feng Huai nodded and didn't say anything else. Today, Dr. Strange didn't come. Only the 7 members of the Avengers Alliance came, and he was the team leader of Aqua Magic School. Not far away, Tang San and the others were also discussing the 7 members of the Avengers Alliance. "Damn, those 7 guys are so handsome. They are even more handsome than me," Oscar complained. After a few days of rest, the austere atmosphere of the 7 in the forest gradually disappeared. Their mentality also relaxed a little. "They seem to be a little more handsome than me," Dai Mubai said. "They're just as Grandmaster predicted. They are not much older than us. To have such strength, they are really amazing." Tang San was more concerned about their age. Lin Feng touched his chin and said, "I think they," hearing this, everyone looked at Lin Feng, wanting to hear his analysis. "They don't seem to be as handsome as me." Lin Feng nodded confidently. Everyone was speechless. Xiao Wu said, That's right. Feng Gu is much more handsome than them. Xiao Wu really knows how to talk. So obedient." Lin Feng smiled and patted her head. Then he took out a fruit. "This is your reward." "What is this?" Xiao Wu took it with a puzzled expression. Lin Feng smiled and said, "This is a fruit I planted myself. It is very sweet. Eat it, and it should increase your soul power." This was a product that Lin Feng came up with on a whim on the way back. It was just an ordinary fruit tree. Lin Feng used life force to accelerate the ripening of the fruit, then injected extremely fine immortal medicine essence into the fruit. Previously, there were more than a dozen fruits on the tree. The rest could not withstand the power of the essence and exploded. Only 2 fruits were left and managed to hold on. Lin Feng ate one of them to test the effect. In the end, the result was not bad. Although it did not have much effect on him, it could only increase his soul power by a small amount. But for a soul ancestor, eating one could increase his soul power by half a rank. It was just that the technology of this thing was not perfect. Lin Feng made an old explosion and had not found a way to stabilize and mature it. When he had time in the future, he could study it. Increase soul power? Really? When she said this, Xiao Wu's mouth was not slow. She ate the fruit the size of a ping-pong ball in a few mouthfuls. In the next second, Xiao Wu's eyes lit up. "My soul power has increased by half a rank. I feel that I can break through again in 3 days at most." "Fengge, do you have any more?" "Give me a few more," Xiao Wu quickly asked. Seeing this, the others also praised Lin Feng. "Fengge is the most handsome. Fengge is the most handsome in the entire continent. Fengge, give me a reward too." Oscar hugged Lin Feng's thigh. "Fengge is really handsome. Those Avengers are far from Fengge." Tang Sen also joined the bootlicking industry. Seeing that everyone was suddenly so enthusiastic about him, Lin Feng looked up at the sky and did not say a word. He did not have any more fruits, so he could not give out any rewards. But this did not stop Tang San and the others from flattering him. As long as he did not say this news, they would continue to flatter him. Hearing these words of praise, Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly, just like Nike. Chapter 325. Feng Ge, we've been praising you for so long. Why haven't you said anything? Is it because you lost it? Suddenly, Ma Hongjun seemed to have noticed something and stopped licking his dog. You're really smart. You even noticed that, Lin Feng said with a smile. Everyone was speechless. All of a sudden, all the praises disappeared. The master glanced at Lin Feng speechlessly. This Xiao Feng was good in all other aspects, except for his narcissism, which was a little serious. Just when everyone was feeling slightly uncomfortable, Tang Sin said, Feng Ge, you said you planted this thing yourself. When can you plant it again? That depends. I'll plant it when I have time. Also, don't think about advancing quickly. This fruit is the same as the immortal medicine Xiao Sin brought back. You can't eat too much at once, or your body won't be able to take it. Oh, I see. Tang Sin nodded. Lin Feng estimated that each person could eat about 10 of this fruit. Those with stronger bodies could eat 15, which could increase everyone's strength by about 3 levels. However, the most important thing now was not how much of this fruit could be eaten, but the production. Lin Feng didn't have much immortal medicine essence left in his body. When the time came, he would have to eat more immortal herbs. Also, he had to study the method of planting this fruit. These were all very time-consuming. Tang San and the others couldn't think about it in a short period of time. It's your turn. Go in, Lin Feng said as he watched the academy in front of him walk through the gate. He wasn't a participant of Shrek Academy, nor was he the leader, so he couldn't follow this group of people in. He would go to the audience later. Shrek Academy had a lot of attention. When a master led the members of Shrek Academy out, it instantly caused enthusiastic cheers. Everyone walked on the road with their heads held high and chests puffed out. So many people. The sea of people gave Tang San and the others a huge visual impact. Especially when this group of people was cheering the name of Shrek Academy. It was very exciting and invigorating. It's a pity that Feng Ge didn't come. Feng Ge would definitely like the feeling of being cheered by a group of people, Tang Sin said regretfully. He knew that Lin Feng liked to be in the limelight. When he was in Nodding City, he would give out gold coins to people to cheer for him. On the day of his graduation, the whole school cheered. It was a pity that Lin Feng wasn't able to experience such a scene. Just as Tang Sin was thinking about this, the Oakland Academy also entered the arena behind him. For a moment, everyone was shouting the words Avengers, and some were shouting Thor, Hulk, and so on. That voice, that power, it was countless times stronger than their Shrek Academy. The Avengers Alliance was what everyone expected, and their reputation spread far and wide. At this time, there were many outsiders in Heavendo City. Among these people, there should be many who didn't know about the Shrek Academy, but most of them definitely knew about the Avengers Alliance. After all, the Avengers Alliance was a legend in the Great Soul Arena. This kind of legendary team's channels and speed of spreading news on Douluo's continent were not something a small academy could compare to. So handsome, so handsome. Is that Thor the Thunder God? He's so handsome. He's simply a god descending to the mortal world. The Hulk's muscles are so strong, and he's so handsome. I love him to death. In the middle of the crowd, Lin Feng's 7 doppelgangers were listening to the praises of the people around them, and their hearts were already blooming with joy. This was the feeling. The cheers of the audience were very exciting. Why did you go to the cinema to watch a movie, and why did you go to a concert to listen to a song? It was for the sake of experiencing the atmosphere of the scene. The degree of stimulation of the scene to the senses was far from what you could experience by wearing headphones and looking at your phone or computer. The waves of cheers made even Lin Feng's heart surge, even though he was extremely powerful. Soon, amidst the cheers, all the teams entered the resting area of the Great Soul Arena. Today was the opening ceremony, and also the first day of the preliminaries. In fact, today wasn't the official preliminaries. Although lots would be drawn, there would only be one soul dueling competition in the end. That was Heaven Do Imperial Academy's second team. They would fight their opponents, and it would be a very heavy performance. Otherwise, just the opening ceremony alone wouldn't be enough to satisfy the audience's interest. They were full of anticipation for the first match. The opening ceremony continued in an orderly manner, and all the academies entered the resting area. At the highest level of the VIP stands, the Snowy Knight Emperor sat upright in the middle, while the Seven Treasures Glaze Sect Master Ning Fengji and Martial Spirit Temple's Temple Master Salas sat on either side. As soon as the host sat down, the host immediately announced that the teams of the various academies would enter. The first to enter was Heaven Do Imperial Academy's second team, followed by the other academies. Because Shrek Academy and Oakland Academy were a little special, they were arranged to enter last. The second-to-last team was Shrek Academy. When they were let out by the staff, the host shouted at the same time. The second-to-last team to enter is Shrek Academy's team. I'm sure everyone is familiar with Shrek Academy. Thanos, Douluo, and Bailin Douluo are two titled Soul Masters. Douluo is guarding this academy together, and they are incomparably powerful. Their slogan for this competition is Unrivaled Champion. This is a very thoughtful slogan. I hope they can perform outstandingly. After the host finished introducing Shrek Academy, the crowd exclaimed once again. Before the last team even entered, the audience was already cheering their names. When the staff led Oakland Academy's team into the arena, the crowd erupted into cheers. Even the host's voice couldn't drown out the cheers. The Thunder God pressed his hands down in the air, and the crowd quieted down. Only then did the host formally introduce them. The last team to enter is Oakland Academy's team. They only have 7 contestants, but I'm sure you all know their name. They are the Avengers. Their slogan is Champion. It's a simple word, but with their strength, I believe they have a chance of winning. After the introduction, the crowd burst into cheers again. In a corner of the auditorium, Lin Feng had a faint smile on his face the whole time. It had to be said that the Soul Dueling Arena was quite large after the renovation. In the center was an enormous Soul Dueling Arena with a diameter of more than 150 meters. The academies that entered first were arranged in a formation in the center of the arena. There were dozens of academies, but it didn't seem crowded at all. There were countless spectators around the arena. Their cheers echoed throughout the Soul Dueling Arena, shaking everyone's hearts. Even those who were sitting in the audience could feel their blood boiling. Chapter 3:26. The reactions of the crowd were different. Most of the spectators were excited. They wanted to see the Avengers beat up the other academies. It was just like when you supported a team in LOL. You would always want them to beat their opponents 3-0 and win the championship. At this moment, the spectators hoped that the powerful Avengers would win and win the championship. The other academies were under immense pressure. The Avengers were the last to appear. Their aura and reputation made them tremble. This was a team that could defeat a Soul King. Among them, the weakest was only a Soul Elder. Only the stronger academies had Soul Ancestors. However, the strongest was only a Soul Ancestor. This meant that the Avengers had already been decided as the champion. Most of the academies had already thought about it. If they met the Avengers, they would just admit defeat. This way, they could avoid being beaten up and preserve their strength to fight for the remaining spots. On the high platform, the Snowy Knight Emperor had a smile on his face. No one could tell what he was thinking. Ning Fengji looked at the Avengers with a worried expression. He was worried for Tang San and the rest. After all, his daughter was in Shrek's 7 Monsters. He naturally hoped that this team would win the championship. On the other hand, Sokka's also frowned slightly. The Avengers' strength made him feel that the Martial Soul Hall's champion this year might be a little uncertain. As a platinum-ranked bishop, Sokka knew that the Martial Soul Hall's golden generation was this year. They were all Soul Ancestors. 3 of them were rank 49 Soul Ancestors. Before the finals, they would probably become Soul Kings. Their martial souls were very powerful. When the time came, they might be able to unleash strength comparable to a Soul Emperor. The Avengers in front of them were all Soul Ancestors. According to the information, they were rank 45. Their martial souls were very powerful and could defeat Soul Kings. A team with such strength would be the Martial Soul Hall's greatest enemy. Most importantly, there seemed to be a powerful and mysterious force behind this team. It was the kind that had the support of the title Douluo. If not for this, Sakas would have found an opportunity to kidnap one of them. Most of the other major forces were the same. They were curious about the Avengers, but because of the presence of the title Douluo, they were all wary. Everyone had different reactions, but the opening ceremony had to go on as usual. The MC on the VIP stage announced, "Next, let us invite the Emperor of the Heaven Do Empire to announce the start of this competition." As soon as he finished speaking, the audience gave him a thunderous applause. The Snow Knight Emperor slowly stood up and walked to the front of the stage. He gestured with his hands and waited for the crowd to quiet down before he shouted, "Me, the Emperor of the Heaven Do Empire, Shui, represents the Heaven Do Empire and the organizers of this tournament to announce that the Continental Elite Academy Tournament is now open." There was a slightly stiff smile on his face as he waved at the Soul Masters and the audience who had come to support him. When the applause died down, Shui continued, "I hope that all the Soul Masters participating in this tournament will be able to achieve a good result. I hope that you will be able to display your abilities to the fullest. For the glory of the Empire, show your brilliance." This time, Shui Qinghe told Lin Feng that 3 title Battle Pet warriors had come to the Heaven Do Empire, and he speculated that it had something to do with the competition. In fact, there was one thing he didn't say. Yingluan had also gone to the palace, and the 3 title Battle Pet warriors had all gone to find the kings of the various duchies and kingdoms. The Martial Soul Hall had used 4 title Battle Pet warriors at once to change the location of the finals to Martial Soul City. In the past, the finals hadn't been held in Martial Soul City. This time, the Martial Soul Hall was definitely going to make a move. Yingluan had threatened the Snow Knight Emperor, and because of this, Shui was feeling very uncomfortable. Now that the competition had started, he found Ning Fengji to make him feel better. After saying this, Shui sat back down. The MC shouted, "Next, let us invite the sect leader of the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect, Mr. Ning Fengji, to give a speech for the competition." The speech was the same as before. He wished the competition well, wished the Heaven Do Empire's team to show off their might and become the champions of this tournament, and so on. Because he was an invited guest, he had to be treated specially. The MC hurriedly asked, "Sect Leader Ning, everyone knows that you are the strongest support type Soul Master. On behalf of the audience, I would like to ask you this question. Among the 28 teams participating in this competition, which one do you think is the strongest?" The effects of the program were not outdated anywhere. In his previous life, the guests of the variety shows would be given a few tricks by the program team. In this Douluo continent, the MC was the program team of the competition, so he had to give Ning Fengji some tricks to make the show more interesting. After all, the imperial family was the organizer of this competition, so they had to be worthy of the audience's money. I can name the 2 strongest teams right away. One is the Oakland Academy's team, and the other is the Shrek Academy's team. But if you ask me which one is stronger, I don't know. At this time, both teams had a lot of supporters. Ning Fengji knew that the Avengers were strong, but he also knew that Tang San's team wasn't weak. I see. It seems that sect leader Ning thinks highly of both teams, the MC said with a smile. In fact, in his heart, no, it wasn't just him. Almost everyone felt that the Avengers were the strongest. After all, the Avengers had shown how strong they were. They were able to defeat a Soul King with the strength of a Soul Ancestor. What about Shrek's 7 monsters? The reason why they were considered strong was mainly because of the 2 powerful titled Douluo behind the Academy. As for how strong they were, not many people knew. I believe everyone knows how strong these 2 teams are. How will these 2 teams perform? Let's wait and see. While the MC was talking, Ning Fengji also sat back down. The audience was also discussing which of the 2 was stronger. On the stage, Ning Rongrong said angrily, "We're being looked down on." That's right. I heard the discussion from the other academies. They all said that the Avengers Alliance is very strong and that we are weak. Xiao Wu also snorted. Tang Xin smiled and said, "Isn't that good? What's our strategy? Keep a low profile." Xiao Wu curled her lips and replied, "That's it. The more they look down on us, the safer we are. We just have to ensure that we advance." Tang Xin nodded. "That's what they say, but they're looking down on us." So angry, Xiao Wu clenched her fists. "Yeah, I don't want to hide my strength anymore. I'll just beat them up." Ma Hongjun muttered. "Fatty, you're so stupid. Even if we hide our strength, we can still beat them up," Ning Rongrong said. Ma Hongjun. Chapter 327. When Tang San and the others said that they were hiding their strength, it did not mean that they were madly suppressing themselves. Instead, it meant that they were displaying their normal strength and hiding their trump cards. Soul Bones, martial soul fusion skills, and 7-man combination skills were their trump cards. As long as they hid these, they could use the rest. While they were discussing, the MC on the high platform continued speaking. "Next, let us invite the Palace Master of Heaven Do City's Martial Soul Temple, Platinum Bishop Sakas, to draw lots for the first round of the preliminaries. Today's draw will include the only match of the day. The second team of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy will fight against the team they've drawn." Sakas slowly rose to his feet after hearing the MC's words. He walked in front of the MC and drew lots from a special box. There were a total of 28 teams, and 14 matches had to be drawn. Every time Sakas drew lots, the MC would announce the matchups. The other matches weren't that important. There were only 3 academies that the audience paid attention to. One was Heaven Do Imperial Academy's second team, while the other 2 were Shrek Academy and Oakland Academy. Then a dramatic scene happened. The MC shouted, "The first round of the preliminaries, Heaven Do Imperial Academy versus Shrek Academy." As soon as these words were spoken, it caused a heated discussion among the audience. Interesting. Shrek Academy actually met Heaven Do Imperial Academy's second team on the first day. A clash between 2 strong teams. How interesting. Luckily, we didn't meet Oakland Academy. It would have been interesting if we did. Ning Rongrong sighed in relief. Heaven Do Imperial Academy's second team? I've never heard of them. I didn't think their first team was strong, so this second team must be even weaker. Let's end this quickly, Dai Mubai said with a relaxed expression. Their words were arrogant, but they had the right to be arrogant. Let's end this quickly, so they won't dare to look down on us. Xiao Wu was itching for action. There were a total of 28 teams, and they were lucky to meet Heaven Do Academy's second team just in time for the opening ceremony. Today, they would show the world the might of Shrek Academy. Even if they used less than half their strength, they would still be able to crush their opponents. At this time, the MC announced a few more academies, and finally, it was Oakland Academy's turn. The first round of the qualifiers, Oakland Academy versus Songhui Academy. At this time, Oakland Academy's information also appeared. That Songhui Academy was not a very strong academy. Back then, in the town next to the Star Do Great Forest, the Tortoise Soul King that Lin Feng had defeated with one punch was from the Songhui Academy. They were standing in the middle of the round platform. At this moment, the faces of several contestants were slightly pale. The Oakland Magic School was like a demon king. The 7 members of the Avengers were practically locked in the championship. If they went up against them, they would simply be beaten. The team leader, Shernyan, sighed. "When the time comes, let's just admit defeat. Our first match is against the Oakland Academy. There's nothing we can do about it. It's not shameful to admit defeat. We just have to go all out in the following matches." Encountering the Oakland Academy in the first match wasn't considered bad luck. This way, they wouldn't have to face them in the following matches. If they could win all the remaining matches, they would have a very high chance of being in the top 5. At this moment, the people from the Songhui Academy could only hope. However, things weren't that simple. Among the 28 teams, the first tier was the Oakland Academy and Shrek Academy. The second tier was the Blazing Fire Academy, Weaver Academy, Lightning Academy, Skywater Academy, Divine Wind Academy, and today's protagonist, the second team of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. The remaining teams, including the Songhui Academy, were all in the third tier. Under these circumstances, it was simply too difficult for them to get into the top 5. Not long after the lot drawing ended, the Platinum Bishop, Sakas, swept his gaze across the audience and said indifferently, "This seat swears on the honor of the martial spirit temple that there is no fraud in this lot drawing. Also, this seat will announce something here. Among the contestants, as long as they can enter the finals, they will have the opportunity to directly enter the martial spirit temple." Sakas was so brazenly trying to steal their empire's soul masters in front of Shui Yi. This made Shui Yi's expression very gloomy, but he also felt a little helpless. He couldn't ignore the threat of the martial spirit temple. If a war broke out, they would be the ones to suffer. Beside him, Ning Fengji's expression was also gloomy. However, the situation was like this, and they could only endure. Not many people in the VIP stand saw the situation. After Sakas finished speaking, the audience didn't have much of a reaction. However, the soul masters in the stands were in an uproar. The martial spirit temple was an existence that was second only to the Pontiff's palace and Douluo's palace. In the entire continent, only the two empires had one each. If a soul master joined a place like this, not only would they receive the best treatment, they would also have all sorts of measures to increase their cultivation speed and the honor of the martial spirit temple. To ordinary soul masters, this was very attractive. Everyone was talking about it. In the stands, Lin Feng smiled and thought to himself, "This martial spirit temple is really domineering." Saka's words didn't affect the soul masters sponsored by the large organizations, but there were many commoner soul masters in the 28 academies. What was the purpose of these people participating in this tournament? Wasn't it to increase their competitiveness and enter a large organization? Now that the martial spirit temple had thrown out such a fragrant olive branch, they were all very excited. They were all fighting to get into the top 5. After Sakas returned to his seat, the host's voice rang out once more. "Very good. Everyone is very excited. Next, we will begin the first round of the qualifiers. Heavendo Imperial Academy's second team will be up against Shrek Academy. All participating academies, please leave the stage. The two academies participating in the tournament, please make your preparations. The tournament will officially begin in an hour." As the host's voice rang out, the various academies left the stage in an orderly manner and walked towards the resting area. At this moment, the audience was still very excited. They were talking about the various academies, and the most talked about one was Oakland Academy. There was no helping it. As a powerhouse, even if there wasn't a tournament today, it would still cause a lot of discussion. Furthermore, the rules of the qualifiers were very simple. Every academy would have to fight a round. In other words, the 28 teams would have to fight a total of 27 rounds. If they won a round, they would get 1 point. If they lost, they wouldn't get any points. After the final round of the tournament, the 5 academies with the most points would qualify for the Heaven's Door division. The rules were that simple. Chapter 328. While the teams were resting, the staff had already started building a stage in the center of the Soul Dueling Arena. It was a circular stage that was over 30 meters tall and 10 meters tall. It was also where Heavendo Imperial Academy's second team and Shrek Academy's battle would be held today. Of course, there wouldn't only be one stage for the entire competition. After today's competition, there would be 4 more. Tomorrow, there would be 5 stages. On the 5 arenas, there would be 14 battles a day. Every team would have 1 battle each. This would continue for a total of 28 days before the preliminaries were finally over. Every day, they had to fight. This was an extremely severe test for teams with weaker endurance. Even though the academy used healing type and support type soul masters to help the students recover, they couldn't recover from their mental exhaustion. 28 days of continuous fighting was more of a test of perseverance. An hour passed quickly, and the first round of the competition was about to begin. Heavendo Imperial Academy's second team and Shrek Academy's team entered the arena under the guidance of the staff. The spectators cheered, and the other teams were also paying attention to this battle. They were very curious to see if Shrek Academy had the strength to match their reputation. As for Heavendo Academy's second team, the 5 elemental academies didn't pay much attention to them except for the third-grade academies. Heavendoe Academy's first team might be a match for them, but Heavendoe Academy's second team was only slightly stronger than the others. They were still lacking compared to the 5 elemental academies. Lin Feng's avatar of the Avengers had already left when he exited the arena. This had caused quite a bit of discussion, but it didn't violate the rules of the competition, so no one said anything about it. At this moment, the two teams walked onto the stage, attracting everyone's attention. For the first match, Shrek's 7 monsters were all participating. Since it was their first match, they naturally had to display the glory of Shrek Academy. They had to eliminate all doubts in this first soul duel. When the two teams entered the ring, the Master of Ceremonies announced the names of each of the two teams loudly. This was similar to a job fair's self-introduction. At the very least, the various powers knew your identity. This way, if your performance was outstanding, they would be able to call out your name. At this time, the two teams were sizing each other up. The members of Shrek Academy looked relaxed, as if they didn't care about Team 2 at all. On the other hand, the members of Shrek Academy looked serious. After all, the Shrek Academy was too popular. There were 2 Douluo players in the same academy, and this was the only one in the entire continent. They had no choice but to treat this kind of battle team seriously. Fortunately, it was not the 7 members of the Avengers. Otherwise, they would not have been able to defeat them. Furthermore, they would not have admitted defeat due to their pride, so they could only take the beating. After the host announced the names and the audience cheered, the referee shouted, "Both sides, please salute. Non-contestants, please step down from the ring." After all, this was a friendly competition, so they had to do a good job of keeping up appearances. Both sides saluted each other. When there were only 14 contestants left on the field, the referee announced, "The first round of the preliminaries will begin in 1 minute. Contestants, please release your martial spirits." Similar to the rules of the Great Soul Arena, both sides would be given time to release their martial souls. Brothers, let everyone see the power of Shrek's 7 monsters. White Tiger Possession. As soon as the referee finished speaking, Tang San's team and the 7 from Heavendoe Academy released their martial souls and soul rings at the same time. Tang San, a rank 48 control-type soul ancestor. He had 2 yellow, 1 purple, and 1 black soul rings. His 4 main soul skills were Bind, Parasitic, Binding Spiderweb, and Blue-Silver Cage. Xiao Wu, a rank 46 assault-type soul ancestor. She had 2 yellow, 1 purple, and 1 black soul rings. Her 4 main soul skills were Waist Bow, Charm, Teleportation, and Invincible Golden Body. Daimu Bai, a rank 52 assault-type soul king. He had 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black soul rings. His 5 main soul skills were White Tiger's Shield, White Tiger's Fierce Light Wave, White Tiger's Vajra Barrier, White Tiger's Shadow Strike, and White Tiger's Darkrock Shield. Oscar, a rank 45 food-type soul ancestor. He had 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings. His 4 main soul skills were Recovery Sausage, Detoxifying Sausage, Rapid Flying Mushroom Sausage, and Pink Berserk Sausage. Ning Rong Rong, a rank 42 auxiliary-type soul ancestor. She had 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings. Her 4 main soul skills were Strength Amplification, Agility Amplification, Soul Power Amplification, and Defense Amplification. Ma Hongjun, a rank 43 assault-type soul ancestor. She had 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings. Her 4 main soul skills were Phoenix Fireline, Phoenix Bathed in Flames, Phoenix Winged Strike, and Phoenix Skyward Roar. Zhu Zhuqing, a rank 43 agility-type soul ancestor. She had 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings. Her 4 main soul skills were Spectre Stab, Spectre 100 Claws, Spectre Shadow Assault, and Spectre Shadow Clone. This was the current strength of Shrek's 7 monsters. Other than Xiao Wu, everyone else had soul bones to boost their strength. When these soul rings were revealed to the audience, cries of surprise immediately spread throughout the audience. Everyone's eyes flickered, and their faces were filled with astonishment. They were unable to calm down. it wasn't just the audience. The VIP section was also filled with cries of surprise at this moment. Is Shrek Academy really this strong? All of them are soul ancestors, and there's even a soul king. Furthermore, this wasn't the most terrifying thing. Behind that soul king, there were actually 2 soul ancestors with 10,000-year soul rings. This was simply too much of a genius. As expected of Shrek Academy, Ning Fengji exclaimed in admiration. His heart was filled with emotion. He knew that Shrek's 7 monsters were very strong, but he never expected them to be this strong. A soul king and 2 soul ancestors with 10,000-year soul rings. This was simply too shocking. For 10,000-year soul rings? The snowy Night Emperor's eyes flickered with surprise. He actually knew quite a bit about Shrek Academy, and he also had some understanding of Shrek's 7 monsters. However, he never expected a soul king and a 10,000-year soul ring. This won't do. This kind of talent must be roped in. Over the past 6 months, the imperial family had talked to Douluo several times. Furthermore, Thanos hadn't appeared for a long time, so the relationship between the imperial family and Shrek Academy had somewhat eased. Now that such a genius had appeared, the championship team must be properly rewarded after the competition. Beside him, Salos furrowed his brows. Below the stage, Prince Xuexing's face was deathly pale. He never expected that the few people he had looked down on in the past would turn out to be such geniuses. If this matter was exposed, Shui Yu would definitely find trouble with him. As he thought about this, he didn't even dare to fart. He sat there and pretended to be a coward, praying that no one would pay attention to him. In the spectator stands, the other teams that weren't participating in the competition were all present. After the various academies discovered the strength of Shrek's 7 monsters, their hearts sank. They originally thought that it was a team that didn't live up to its name, but they didn't expect it to be so strong. It was ridiculously strong. Chapter 329. The Avengers were a team of soul ancestors that could fight against soul kings. This left all the teams in despair. Shrek's 7 monsters had a soul king among them. Although they didn't know how strong they were at least on par with the Avengers. Everyone didn't believe Ning Fengji when he said that the 2 teams were evenly matched, but they all believed him now. Shrek's 7 monsters was also a team that could win the championship. At this moment, everyone was shocked. They couldn't help but wonder what would happen if this team fought with the Avengers. Everyone was looking forward to it. In the corner, Lin Feng smiled. They're quite imposing. At this moment, 7 people possessed martial souls. Soul kings and 10,000-year soul rings appeared. It felt like a primary school math competition where they used functions, derivatives, and complex numbers. It shocked all the teachers. The referee was a little stunned. He didn't expect this to happen in the first round of the qualifiers. On the other side, the Heaven Do Academy's second team was stunned. They were all soul elders, while their opponents were all soul ancestors. There was even a soul king. How were they going to play? They already had the thought of admitting defeat in their hearts. But before this, they were not mentally prepared. At this moment, each and every one of them was stunned on the spot. Referee, why aren't you starting? Dai Mubai urged when he saw that the referee didn't announce the start of the match. Oh, I'll announce the start of the match. The referee came back to his senses and hurriedly announced the start of the match. Charge! Dai Mubai bellowed and took the lead to charge forward. The Heaven Do Academy's second team didn't have time to think when they saw this scene. Their captain shouted and rushed forward. However, the gap between the 2 teams was too big. A team with only soul elders. They were the weakest of the weakest. They were in the second tier because of the Imperial Academy's reputation. They didn't even use their soul skills. Dai Mubai rushed to the front and punched 1 person each. The others also displayed their prowess and easily defeated their opponents. Ning Rongrong and Oscar didn't move. They were counting the seconds to see how long it would take for this match to end. 7, 8, 13, 14. It's over. The 7 of them have all fallen. Ning Rongrong said with a smile as she watched the 7 of them fall one by one. Oscar shouted at the referee, "It's over." Announced the result. The 7 from the Heaven Do Academy were all lying on the ground, unable to get up. They had lost the ability to fight. Standing beside them were Bai and the other four. This was the result of Tang San and the others holding back. Otherwise, according to the rules of the competition, as long as they did not die, they could have beaten them to a pulp. If that happened, they could forget about winning in the following period of time. After all, other than Lin Feng, they had never seen a healing-type soul master who could heal a heavily injured person in such a short period of time. A heavily injured person wouldn't be able to fight for at least 2 or 3 days. It was just the first show, so there was no need to make it so bloody. The Shrek Academy was a big academy, after all, and they still cared about their reputation. Before the match between the Grandmaster and Flanders, he had instructed them not to be too heavy-handed. So now, Tang San and the other four were targeting special parts of the body. After a few hits, their opponent's soul power would be unable to circulate smoothly. They would be lightly injured and lose the ability to fight for a short period of time. The referee was stunned for a second. He only regained his senses when Oscar called out to him. Then he announced loudly, "The Shrek Academy wins the first round of the qualifiers." The audience was silent for a moment before they erupted into enthusiastic cheers. The cheers weren't any weaker than the cheers for the Avengers. These were cheers that belonged to the strong. The match ended in 14 seconds. They didn't even use many soul skills. They were simply too strong. Those who could only see the surface cheered along. There was also a portion of people who could see the essence of the battle. Were Soul Elders strong? Of course they were. The majority of the main teams of the various academies were Soul Elders. Less than half of them were Soul Ancestors. Some Soul Exalts with powerful martial souls could even defeat Soul Ancestors with weaker martial souls. Even if they couldn't beat them, they couldn't be killed so quickly. After all, Soul Elders usually had powerful thousand-year soul skills. However, the Heaven Do Academy's second team couldn't even last 2 moves against Tang San and the others, even with their thousand-year soul skills. 7 people fell in 14 seconds. On average, 1 person fell every 2 seconds. This kind of strength was far superior to theirs. Even the 5 elemental academies had serious expressions on their faces. They were thinking about whether they should admit defeat if they met them. Just as everyone was cheering, the Snowy Night Emperor stood up. He came in front of the sound-amplifying soul tool and scanned the surroundings. The first match of the day was very exciting. Although the Heaven Do Academy's second team lost, the Shrek Academy, as the Heaven Do Empire's honorary academy, won. This is the honor of the Shrek Academy and the Empire. It was a simple sentence, but everyone could tell that the imperial family had a good impression of the Shrek Academy. Prince Xuexing was slightly stunned. He thought that the Snowy Night Emperor would scold him to death. After all, the Heaven Do Academy had lost. However, he felt happy now. Flanders sensed the Snowy Night Emperor's gaze on him. He hurriedly smiled and nodded. What could they do when the Emperor expressed his goodwill? They could only accept it. Even though their academy had been threatened by a 10,000-strong Soul Master Legion, and even though the other party had a titled Soul Master, Douluo, who had secretly attacked them, they had grown up in this empire. They still had a special relationship with it. They couldn't possibly rebel against the Heaven Do Empire. After all, they were from the Heaven Do Empire. After the Snowy Night Emperor finished speaking, he smiled and nodded at the Shrek's 7 monsters. After that, he left. After all, he was the ruler of an empire. There were many things that he had to do. Tang San and the others didn't have anything to say. They didn't have a good impression of the Snowy Night Emperor. They still remembered how the 10,000-strong Soul Master Legion had forced their way to the Academy's gates. Now, he wanted to bribe them with a few words? Dream on. As they watched the Heaven Do Academy's team being carried away, Tang San and the others didn't stay any longer. They walked off the stage amidst the cheers of the audience. After the first match of the opening ceremony, there were no more matches for the day. The audience left the stage one after another. However, as they left the venue, all of them were enthusiastically discussing the insta-kill that Shrek's 7 monsters had just displayed. At the same time, they were discussing the Avengers. They were very curious to see what would happen when the 2 teams met. Chapter 330. Shrek Academy won a great victory today. Not long after Tang San and the others returned to the academy, a large number of forces and families came to congratulate them. Flanders immediately went to greet them, and even the royal family sent people to congratulate them. These people naturally wanted to see Tang San and the others, but Flanders stopped almost everyone, only letting in Ning Fengji, who was related to Ning Rongrong. He didn't even let in the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan. Congratulations, Shrek Academy won the first victory today. The battle between the 7 of you was really wonderful. It ended in less than 15 seconds. Ning Fengji clapped his hands and arrived in front of everyone. Dad, why are you here? Ning Rongrong ran over with a happy face. The Grandmaster smiled and cupped his hands. Greetings, Sect Master Ning. Tang San and the rest also followed suit and bowed. They were still extremely respectful towards people who were both powerful and had a high status. He had sensed Lin Feng's words before Ning Fengji arrived. He didn't want to see this guy because every time Ning Fengji came, he would invite him to join the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. Even if he refused many times, this guy still persevered, which gave him a headache. So when he found Ning Fengji, he went to his room in advance. Even if Ning Fengji came, he didn't come out, but he would divert some of his attention to monitor the situation. He sensed that Douluo and Gu Rong were secretly guarding Ning Fengji. He was a person who wasn't good with words, so he didn't appear. As the sect master of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, Ning Fengji would bring along a titled law every time he went out. Last time it was Dusty Heart, and this time it was Gu Rong. Your strength is really amazing. I didn't expect Mu Bai to become a soul king, and Xiao San and Xiao Wu to obtain 10,000-year soul rings. It's really amazing. Ning Fengji chuckled. He had a good understanding of the 7 people. Although he didn't know their specific strength, he knew that they were very strong. Even so, today's debut in the competition still shocked him. Being praised by someone like Ning Fengji, Tang San, and the others were still a little embarrassed. They all smiled and didn't know what to say. It was still the master who smiled and said, "It's all the result of the children's hard work. They worked very hard to obtain this kind of strength." Ning Rongrong chimed in, "That's right. We all work very hard to cultivate. That's how we can become stronger." Ning Fengji chuckled. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, he suddenly turned to Ning Rongrong and asked, "Rongrong, where's Fengge? Why didn't I see him among the participants?" Although he was asking Ning Rongrong, Ning Fengji was also asking the others, so everyone heard him. Fengge didn't participate. He said that the team was too weak and that he would be bullying them if he participated, Ning Rongrong said. Everyone chimed in, expressing that Ning Rongrong was right. Ning Fengji was slightly stunned. He thought that Lin Feng was their secret weapon or something and would be the last to participate. He didn't expect this to be the reason. Everyone was too weak. Lin Feng's words were really arrogant. However, thinking about his strength, Ning Fengji felt that he was right. Is Lin Feng not in the academy? Ning Fengji glanced around and asked. In fact, he knew the general reason. Perhaps he was deliberately avoiding him. However, there was still hope to see him if he asked now. Fengge. He went straight to his room after returning. He might be cultivating, Oscar said with uncertainty. I see. It seemed that he was deliberately avoiding him. Ning Fengji didn't ask any more and got down to business. The Martial Spirit Palace has interfered in this year's competition. The finals should be held in Martial Spirit City. In fact, this kind of thing was considered confidential. Ning Fengji shouldn't have said it. However, Shrek Academy's situation was special, so it didn't matter if he said it. The Martial Spirit Palace interfered? Is there a reason? Tang San was a little confused. In fact, Tang San still didn't understand the relationship between the Martial Spirit Palace and the Heaven Do Empire. What did he mean by the Martial Spirit Palace interfered? What did he mean? The master said in a deep voice, the previous 3 Continental Academy elite tournaments were jointly organized by the 2 empires. The Martial Spirit Palace only participated as a participant and didn't have any influence on the competition. But this time, if the Martial Spirit Palace interfered, the situation would be different. The venue would be changed to Martial Spirit City. This means that they might be the next host. Ning Fengji nodded. That's right. This kind of competition is mainly to let a group of genius students join a suitable big power. If the Martial Spirit Palace takes the lead in the future, the best batch of Soul Masters in each competition may be absorbed by the Martial Spirit Palace. In this way, the two empires will lose a lot of talents, and the Martial Spirit Palace's strength will be strengthened. In fact, this was a very long-term plan. 10 or 20 years might not show much, but after 30 years, when those geniuses started to cultivate, the Martial Spirit Palace's strength would become stronger and stronger. Correspondingly, the number of new Soul Masters in the two empires would decrease and become weaker. It would be more difficult to produce experts. In the long run, the two empires would definitely be swallowed by the Martial Spirit Palace. Of course, the two empires were aware of this danger. However, the Martial Spirit Palace didn't force them to host this time. They simply changed the venue of the finals to Martial Spirit City and nothing else. If the Martial Spirit Palace requested to host the next competition, the two empires would do their best to stop them. Ning Fengji said this in the Shrek Academy because he hoped that Flanders and the others would pay enough attention to it. If this could affect Douluo or Thanos, it would be even better. In this way, the Martial Spirit Palace wants to unify the continent. Tang San immediately thought of this point. Ning Fengji's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly said, Xiao San, don't talk nonsense. What I've said so far is only a guess. So far, the Martial Spirit Hall hasn't done anything out of the ordinary. The reason they used to change the location of the finals to Martial Spirit City is very reasonable. Because their team was the champion last season, they want to have a home advantage this season. The Grandmaster also said with a serious expression, Children, you can't say this outside. The Martial Spirit Palace has the ambition to unify the continent. This is something that smart people can see. However, this matter hasn't been set in stone yet. If you dare to talk nonsense, you're courting death. Yes, we know. Everyone nodded with a serious expression. Although the Martial Spirit Palace had internal conflicts, they were still united when it came to outsiders. Even if the two empires had planted spies, this couldn't stop the general trend. If anyone dared to say that the Martial Spirit Palace had the ambition to unify the continent, they would definitely be assassinated. Gue Douluo, Gue Mei, and Ying Luan were all experts in assassination. Chapter 331. After Ning Fengji finished talking about the Martial Spirit Temple, he left the Shrek Academy. He said this to prevent Tang San and the others from joining the Martial Spirit Temple. After all, the temptation of joining the Martial Spirit Temple was quite great. Even if the temptation of the Martial Spirit Temple was not enough, when the finals came, Shrek's 7 monsters might be personally invited by the Pope to join the Martial Spirit Temple. That was a supreme honor for a Soul Master. He was worried that Tang San and the others might not be able to resist joining, so he gave him a heads up in advance. After visiting the Shrek Academy, Ning Fengji did not return to the Imperial Palace but went to Ackland Academy. He wanted to visit the Avengers and see if he could meet them. It would be best if he could talk to the hidden force behind them. Speaking of which, Doctor Strange seemed to have appeared out of thin air. This group of people was too mysterious. Even Ning Fengji and the Snowy Night Emperor had no way to know which force they were from. He hoped that he could gain something from this visit. However, Ning Fengji was destined to be disappointed. After finding Feng Huai, he couldn't see the 7 members of the Avengers at all. Even when he asked Feng Huai didn't know anything. He didn't know much more about the Avengers than anyone else. When he was in the Soul Arena, he wanted to ask. However, no one paid attention to him. In the end, he shut his mouth and didn't ask for a rebuff. Ning Fengji left in disappointment. Not only him, but many forces who came to visit the Avengers also left in disappointment. In the Shrek Academy, Ning Fengji's words still had an impact on everyone. But this time, they were in the midst of a competition. Even if they were affected, they had to suppress it. After all, the competition was the most important. However, a competition a day was not too intense for Tang San and the others, and it didn't affect them much. They just had to train, as usual, every day. The Seven Treasures glazed sect actually had a secret technique. It seemed to be called the heart of seven orifices or something. It was very fancy. In fact, this was a very simple multitasking method that allowed the soul masters of the Seven Treasures glazed sect to increase the status of many people at the same time. This secret technique was very boring to practice, and the efficiency was also very low. Ning Rongrong basically didn't practice it much. In the original work, Ning Rongrong was only able to open 3 apertures. She could only buff 6 people for a few seconds. But now, ever since he had learned the soul power control method that Lin Feng had taught him, he had no problem supporting 6 people at the same time. It was just that the strength of his soul skills had decreased. Originally, the Grandmaster wanted to let Tang San and the rest practice exquisite heart, but after seeing the effect of their soul power control, he silently withdrew his suggestion. The soul power control method that Lin Feng taught him was truly a divine skill. In the midst of cultivation, a day passed very quickly. The next morning, everyone from Shrek Academy arrived at the Great Soul Arena. This time, the audience looked at them with great enthusiasm. When they entered the arena, the cheers were like waves, which made them very excited. Today, there were a total of 13 matches. The second team of Shrek Academy and Heavendo Academy had already fought yesterday, so there was no need to fight. The reason why they came was to observe the Avengers. Today, Oakland Academy was going to face the Songhui Academy that they had drawn yesterday. All the audience were very excited. Yesterday, they had witnessed the Shrek Academy finish the battle in 15 seconds. How long would this equally famous Avengers take? Soon, it was noon, and Oakland Academy finally went on stage. Songhui Academy also walked up. The 2 sides came to the stage, and the MC announced their names. There was a process to the competition. Generally, you had to go on stage before you could admit defeat. If you didn't even go on stage and admit defeat, it would be too embarrassing. Moreover, the MC would announce your name when you went on stage, which could be considered as spreading your reputation. After the MC finished announcing the names, the referee shouted, "Both sides bow. Non-contestants, leave the stage." Songhui Academy was like an obedient child. Shenyan immediately brought a few substitutes down. On Oakland Academy's side, Feng Huai simply didn't go up. From beginning to end, only the 7 members of the Avengers stood there. Both sides bowed? That didn't exist. The few people from Songhui Academy bowed to Lin Feng's 7 doppelgangers, while Steve and the others didn't move at all. The referee wanted to say something, but Shenyan sighed and said, "Our Songhui Academy admits defeat." Originally, he wanted to take this opportunity to see the other party's martial soul and soul ring. After all, they hadn't really seen these things before. They had only seen them in the information. But now, the Avengers didn't give them any face at all. They didn't even give them the most basic respect. Obviously, they didn't care about their academy. Of course, Shenyan was afraid that the students would be angry and attack them. If they were seriously injured, they wouldn't be able to win the later matches. In order to avoid humiliating himself, Shenyan immediately chose to admit defeat. The referee was stunned. This was the first time someone admitted defeat during the qualifiers. But he still announced loudly, "In the 9th round of the qualifiers, Songhui Academy admits defeat. Oakland Academy wins." After the announcement was made, the entire audience was stunned. Although many people knew that Songhui Academy admitting defeat was the best choice, when it really happened, they still felt a little surprised. Then, there were overwhelming discussions. Some discussed Songhui Academy's lack of courage, while others discussed Songhui Academy's wise choice. Anyway, there were all kinds of discussions. This was a competition with its own topics. But these didn't affect the results of the competition. After seeing the referee announce the victory, the 7 people from the Avengers didn't say a word and quickly left the arena. Then, they disappeared around a corner, just like how they mysteriously disappeared after the soul battle. In the stands, Xiao Wu slapped the pole and said, "This Songhui Academy is really weak." No wonder that Soul King was defeated by Feng Ge with 1 punch. Now, they admit defeat without even fighting. Xiao Wu and the others were still very disappointed that they didn't see the Avengers make a move. However, Tang Xin smiled and said, Xiao Wu, don't forget that our strategy is to surrender when we meet them. It's no different from Songhui Academy's choice. Master also said, that's right. The Avengers are different from other teams. Many people know their strength. Facing such a team, it's the wisest choice to admit defeat. If nothing unexpected happens, there might be a situation where all 27 teams admit defeat. Ning Rongrong was stunned. Then doesn't that mean Oakland Academy doesn't need to fight a single match and directly advances to the finals? If that happens, then this matter can be recorded in the annals of history. Dai Mubai sighed. Chapter 332. Although it was absurd to enter the finals without fighting a single match, the possibility was still very high. After all, as long as the team leader was not stupid, they would choose to admit defeat. Otherwise, if they were injured by the people from Oakland Academy, they would not perform well in the following matches and would lose several matches at once. Of course, in the last few matches, there might be other academies who would test the strength of their opponents. In any case, Oakland Academy would definitely be able to get a place in the finals. The biggest highlight of the day was gone. Lin Feng had also left, but Tang San and the others did not leave. Under the master's request, they observed the other academies and paid attention to their strength. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy to be victorious. Even if Tang San and the others were very strong, they still had a general understanding of the other academies. That afternoon, Lin Feng was drinking tea in the tea house at the entrance of the academy. The tea here was really delicious. Lin Feng ordered 5 cups in one go and slowly tasted them in the private room. Just as he was drinking the 3rd cup, Xue Qinghe walked in. He probably knew that he was drinking tea here, so he chased after him. What's the matter? Is there any news? Lin Feng continued drinking tea and asked casually. No. Xue Qinghe took out the token with the word Marvel engraved on it from his chest. With a smile on his face, he said, I passed one of Lord Mie's tests, and he gave me this token. After saying that, Xue Qinghe expected to see Lin Feng's surprised expression, but the latter's face was calm and did not show the slightest bit of surprise. Xue Qinghe was speechless. After a moment of silence, Xue Qinghe was slightly embarrassed and then quickly asked, Do you think that after I get this token, I'm considered a member of the Marvel family? Mr. Destroy says so. Did he say so? Lin Feng asked with a smile. No. Xue Qinghe changed the topic. Mr. Destroy's test was to make me eat a plate of osmanthus cake. Although it was simple, I think there must be a deeper meaning to it. Lin Feng, you're a member of the Marvel family. What do you think Mr. Destroy's test is? Hearing this, Lin Feng was stunned. So Xue Qinghe still hadn't realized that he was toying with him? From the looks of it, he took it seriously and trusted that plate of osmanthus cake without a doubt. He felt that there must be some deeper meaning behind it. Isn't this imagination a little too strong? This is Mr. Destroy's test for you, not me. How would I know? Lin Feng tried to fool him. What a joke. Back then, he had just casually mentioned it. He didn't even know what the test was, so he couldn't give an explanation. However, Xue Qinghe nodded affirmatively and said, That's right. This is a test given to me by Mr. Destroy. Only I can understand the meaning behind it. I haven't comprehended it yet because I'm a little stupid. One day, I'll comprehend it. After being enlightened by Lin Feng, Xue Qinghe felt that he had comprehended something. Osmanthus cake? Could it be related to the osmanthus tree? Was it a plant-type soul beast? Or was it just an ordinary osmanthus tree? If it was an ordinary osmanthus tree, osmanthus flowers usually bloomed from September to October. This period was autumn, and autumn represented harvest. So, a person's divergent thinking was very terrifying. In just a short while, Xue Qinghe had already thought of many things in his mind. Looking at Xue Qinghe, who was deep in thought, Lin Feng's mouth twitched slightly. You comprehended it again? That's ridiculous. After pushing the last cup of tea in front of Xue Qinghe, Lin Feng got up and left. This guy's imagination is too strong. He's so silly. How interesting. But speaking of which, he couldn't be blamed. Who would have thought that a powerhouse like Thanos would be so bored? It was just like in the real world. If a certain big shot with the surname Ma gave you a test, would you think that he was just saying it casually? Of course not. With the big shot status, how could he be so bored to do such a thing? It was impossible to imagine. Lin Feng obviously wouldn't take the initiative to expose this matter. Otherwise, wouldn't his tall, imposing, powerful, and handsome image collapse? After drinking the tea, Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to return to the academy. Instead, he went to the ice-fire Yin-Yang well in the setting sun forest. He felt that he could study the fruit that he made previously. This fruit was more friendly to low-level soul masters. If he could make it, he could give it to old Jack. In Douluo's world, there were still many things waiting for him to discover. Furthermore, there seemed to be some rules in this world. For example, Lin Feng had been studying martial soul fusion. It wasn't about other people's martial soul fusion, but his own two martial souls, the immeasurable flower and the thousand trickery ruler. Lin Feng actually had the idea of using his twin martial souls to perform a martial soul fusion skill a long time ago. However, after so long, he still hadn't succeeded. It wasn't that Lin Feng wasn't hardworking in his research, or that he spent too little time. Previously, when he was in the ice-fire Yin-Yang well, he had been studying every day. He even took advantage of that time to perfect other people's martial soul fusion skills. He came to the conclusion that martial soul fusion skills could be used by two people. This was actually equivalent to the two of them using martial soul fusion skills and becoming stronger. However, these theories didn't hinder Lin Feng from completing the fusion of his twin martial souls. It was as if some kind of rule, some kind of barrier, was here. His twin martial souls couldn't fuse. Lin Feng reckoned that this should be some kind of rule in Douluo's world that was stopping him. Just like how it was almost impossible for a rank 99 titled Douluo to become a god through normal cultivation, and how he couldn't break through to the next level without absorbing soul rings. These were all rules. Perhaps these things could be done in the god realm, but in Douluo's world, there was something stopping him. He didn't know if the rules of this world would stop him from reaching rank 100 when he reached rank 99. To be precise, it was to obtain a deity position. The deity positions in the god realm were limited. If you didn't have the inheritance of a god, it was basically impossible to become a god. Lin Feng didn't want to inherit someone else's deity position, which would be restricted. His idea was to become a god himself and use his experience points to climb up. He just didn't know if the rules of Douluo's world would change because of this at that time. But these were all things for the future. Lin Feng didn't think too much about it. At this time, he began to study the fruit. Just like that, time flew by, and 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. During this period, Lin Feng lived very leisurely. Every day, he would wander around the Great Soul Arena and wait for the other party to admit defeat before he could slip away. That's right, in 10 days, no one dared to challenge the Avengers. They were too strong, and these people all admitted defeat. In this way, Lin Feng was very relaxed. Every day, he would do research, drink tea, and go out to fight when he had the chance. Chapter 333. In these 10 days, other than the Avengers, the second most leisurely team was Shrek's 7 monsters. On the second day, they were up against one of the 5 elemental academies, the Elephant Armor Academy. Behind this academy stood the Elephant Armor sect. Their martial soul was called the Diamond Mammoth, and their defense was especially strong. However, they were easily beaten by Shrek's 7 monsters. Although they used many soul skills, these so-called strong defenses were like paper in the hands of Tang San and the others. Ever since the second match, Shrek's 7 monsters' strength had been completely recognized by everyone. When some teams faced Shrek Academy, perhaps they really couldn't beat them, or perhaps they wanted to hide their strength. In any case, they would admit defeat anyway. After 10 days, only 3 teams had a winning streak: Shrek Academy, Oakland Academy, and Blazing Academy. This was also due to luck. These 3 academies hadn't met each other yet. Otherwise, there would be one less team with a winning streak every time they met. As for the other teams, the stronger ones lost 1 or 2 matches, while the weaker ones lost almost all of their matches. At this moment, Shrek Academy and Oakland Academy had basically taken 2 spots. The remaining 3 spots should be fought for by the 5 elemental academies. Among them, the Elephant Armor Academy was the most miserable. Because they didn't believe in heresy, they stubbornly resisted the attacks of Shrek's 7 monsters. In the end, the result was a crushing defeat. Furthermore, because of their stubbornness, Dai Mubai and the others couldn't pull back easily. Many of these people were seriously injured. In the following days, they met a few other elemental academies and lost several matches in a row. If nothing unexpected happened, they probably wouldn't be able to qualify for the next round. Today was the 11th day of the competition and also the day with the highest cheers. Because today, Shrek Academy's opponent was Oakland Academy. These 2 strong teams finally met today. This epic battle aroused everyone's anticipation. In the resting area, Shrek Academy side, Oscar said, "The cheers outside are so intense. Everyone is cheering for us. Is it really a good idea to admit defeat?" The main reason was that there were too many people paying attention to this battle. They didn't expect that there would be so many people paying attention to a single match. There were heated discussions everywhere. Even when they walked outside these days, they could hear people looking forward to the battle between the 2 of them. This gave them a lot of pressure. They were all conflicted about whether they should surrender or not. After all, there were too many people supporting them. Even the Grandmaster was a bit hesitant. Should they try Auckland Magic Academy first? It would be too shameful if they admitted defeat right away. It would be fine as long as they didn't use their full strength to test each other's strength. Grandmaster reckoned that the other party wouldn't go all out. After all, the finals hadn't started yet. I don't think we should admit defeat either. The Avengers haven't even fought a single battle. We don't have to use all our strength to test them. This is feasible. Dai Mubai nodded in agreement. That's right. Let's fight and show them how powerful we are. Xiao said, "Xiao-san, what do you think?" The master looked at Tang San and asked. The others also looked over, wanting to see how their captain would react. Tang San's commanding ability was recognized by everyone, especially in the Sunset Forest. If it weren't for Tang San's commanding ability, at least half of them would have been seriously injured. We admit defeat. We don't want to fight, Tang San said calmly. But Oscar had just opened his mouth when Tang San interrupted. No buts. Admitting defeat is the best choice. So what if the audience is enthusiastic? Do you think you can win the championship if the audience supports you? Don't we still have to rely on ourselves in the end? If we admit defeat directly and win the other 26 matches, we will definitely qualify. This is also the easiest choice for us and the one with the least exposure. Fenggu taught us that we have to see the essence of everything through the surface. Don't be blinded by illusions. The audience isn't important. The audience's support isn't important. The most important thing is our own choice. After learning from Lin Feng for several years, Tang San's words were similar to when Lin Feng preached to him in the soul-hunting forest. In the past 10 days, their Shrek Academy had received too much praise and flattery. Even people like the master were somewhat affected. Dai Mubai and the others were also affected. Although they were still vigilant, they no longer had their original intentions. Fortunately, Tang San stuck to his original idea and was not affected by others. That's right. Third brother is right. The audience can't let us win the championship. Why should we listen to them? Xiao Wu scratched her head. She was a careless and naive person. Even if she had experienced a lot, it was difficult to change her personality. At this time, she felt that Tang San's words made sense and immediately agreed. The others thought about it. Even a master was slightly stunned. That's right. Their initial plan was to admit defeat. How could they change their plans because of the audience? They almost made the wrong decision. After thinking about it, he quickly said, Xiao San is right. We'll directly admit defeat later. It's best not to expose ourselves. This is our biggest advantage. It doesn't make sense for us to test the Avengers. Some of the Avengers' fighting styles, their strength, martial souls, and so on. Tang San and the others had seen these things before. The master had also specially analyzed them at that time. Shrek's 7 monsters hadn't shown much of their strength so far. Others thought they were going all out, but in fact, they hadn't even shown 30% of their strength. Both teams had hidden something. If something happened in the qualifiers, the ones who would suffer would not be others but Tang San and the others. Therefore, admitting defeat was the best choice. Will the audience scold us if we admit defeat, just like Songhui Academy? Ning Rongrong said with some worry. At that time, Songhui Academy directly admitted defeat. They were the first academy to admit defeat against Oakland Academy. At that time, the audience was very much looking forward to it. When they finally admitted defeat, many people scolded them. After all, they were just a group of children. No matter how much experience they had, if many people scolded them, they couldn't really ignore it. No matter how calm they were, they would still be affected. Let them scold us. We'll still win later. They won't scold us anymore. Tang San said lightly. When we qualify for the finals, they will all cheer for us. Tang San's words were reasonable. As long as they could keep winning, the people who scolded them would soon disappear. And even if they admitted defeat, there would definitely be fewer people scolding them than supporting them. They didn't need to care about this at all. Chapter 334. Soon, it was the turn of the Oakland Academy and the Shrek Academy. This was the highlight of the show. The MC introduced everyone's information in detail, and then announced the results of both teams. The atmosphere in the audience was stirred up. The Snowy Night Emperor and the others had arrived on the VIP platform. The Snowy Night Emperor had only been here once during the opening ceremony. He wasn't the only one. Ning Fengji and Sokka's weren't here either. But today, because of the competition between the two teams, almost everyone was here. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two teams, and they were all guessing how intense the battle would be later. Sect Master Ning, who do you think will win? Sokka's asked Ning Fengji. The latter said calmly, both teams are very strong. I'm not sure who will win. We'll only know after the battle. I wonder which team Bishop Sokka thinks will win. I think Shrek's 7 monsters will win. After all, Sect Master Ning's daughter is in there. With the help of the world's #1 auxiliary-type soul master, it'll be difficult for them to lose. Sokka said that Shrek Academy was stronger, but his tone was a little strange. Ning Fengji wasn't annoyed. He smiled and said, "Thank you, Bishop Sokka. I've heard that the Martial Soul Hall's team this year is from the Golden Generation, and they're very strong. What are our chances of victory against Shrek Academy?" "Ha ha!" Sokka laughed. "I don't know either." Ning Fengji was trying to trick him, but he wasn't going to fall for it. The match is about to start. Don't worry and watch. The Snowy Night Emperor said. Hearing this, the two stopped talking and focused on the match. At this moment, the referee was already in place. The audience was looking forward to the start of the match. "We admit defeat." These words suddenly popped out of Tang San's mouth. The referee was stunned, the audience was stunned, and so were the people from the various major forces in the VIP stands. Just as they were stunned, Tang San and the others turned around and left the stage. The referee reacted and quickly announced the result. In the 7th match of the 11th round of the qualifiers, Shrek Academy admits defeat. Oakland Academy wins. Currently, Oakland Academy has an 11-match winning streak. After the referee announced the result of the match, the audience was in an uproar. Everyone was talking about it. They were all expecting a huge battle, but the reality was that the Shrek Academy had directly admitted defeat. This was too controversial. What did this mean? Was Shrek Academy admitting that they were inferior to Oakland Academy? Or was he scared? Most people thought so. They were cursing and ridiculing. In any case, most of them felt that the two sides should have a huge battle. On the other hand, the smarter ones were able to see things on a deeper level. They knew that Shrek Academy had a high chance of admitting defeat. The reason why they came to watch the match today was because they had the hope that they might have a chance to fight. It was reasonable for them to admit defeat now. There's nothing to see. I'm leaving. Emperor Snowy Night stood up disappointedly and left. He had come here to watch the fight between Shrek Academy and Oakland Academy. Since he didn't get to see it, he didn't want to stay here any longer. He wasn't the only one. Some people from other factions also left. Clearly, many of them had the same thoughts as Snowy Night. In the stands, Lin Feng thought to himself. After being flattered for so many days, they actually didn't get arrogant and chose to admit defeat. They can keep their composure. Originally, Lin Feng thought that Tang San and the others would get carried away. After all, they were young and impetuous. It was normal for them to get arrogant after being flattered. Their current performance was pretty good. When they grew up in the future, they could even follow him to the divine realm to conquer the world. Lin Feng didn't stay here for long. He quickly left and continued to return to the setting sun forest. At the ice fire Yin Yang well, Lin Feng had already transformed it into a series of neat herb fields. Immortal herbs, top-grade herbs, mid-grade herbs, ordinary herbs, fruit trees, and so on were all divided up by Lin Feng. They were all very pleasing to the eye. Lin Feng had reached a bottleneck in his research on fruit trees. He discovered a very strange point. He now had two methods to cultivate fruit trees. Using the first method, he could directly cultivate plant-type soul beasts. This feeling was very strange. This was because when he cultivated immortal herbs previously, such a situation had never happened. Now, fruit trees could become soul beasts. It looked very novel. However, becoming soul beasts was useless to Lin Feng. He didn't need soul beasts. What he wanted were strong fruit trees that could withstand the essence of immortal herbs. The second method was the superior version of Lin Feng's previous method. Lin Feng increased the survival rate, but there was still a 70% chance of destruction. This way, it consumed too much immortal herb essence, and the yield was very low. Therefore, in summary, Lin Feng still couldn't guarantee the yield of this fruit. Previously, Lin Feng's research was based on hard research. He started with ordinary fruit trees and then thought of ways to strengthen them. Today, he decided to change his way of thinking. He directly captured a relatively strong plant-type soul beast and brought it over. If he did the reverse research, there might be a miraculous effect. Or perhaps his immortal herb essence would be directly absorbed by this soul beast. Forget it, I'll capture it first. With that thought, Lin Feng directly searched the setting sun forest. Plant-type soul beasts were especially good at hiding themselves because it was very difficult for them to move. Generally, they could only stay in place. Only when they became stronger could they move a certain distance in a short period of time. If they didn't take root in the ground for a long time, they would quickly become incomparably weak. Furthermore, compared to ordinary soul beasts, plant-type soul beasts cultivated too slowly. Under such circumstances, if they didn't hide well, wouldn't they be courting death? However, Lin Feng was born with an affinity with animals and plants, especially plants. The life force emitted by his immeasurable flower was a rare treasure to plant-type soul beasts. It was fatally attractive to them. Lin Feng used his first soul skill, Life Bloom, and ran wildly in the setting sun forest. As long as there was too much life force being absorbed, there was a high probability of a soul beast hiding there. Plant-type soul beasts absorbed life force much faster than ordinary soul beasts. As long as Lin Feng was careful, he would be able to find these soul beasts very quickly. Under Lin Feng's radar-like scanning, the plant-type soul beasts were found by Lin Feng one by one. There were weak ones that were less than 10,000 years old, and strong ones that were 30,000 years old. However, it wasn't easy to find a soul beast that met Lin Feng's criteria. It was either strong enough but not bearing fruit, or it bore fruit but was too weak. Lin Feng estimated that it would take a few days to find a strong and bearing fruit plant-type soul beast. Chapter 335. At night, Lin Feng sighed after searching for an entire day. This soul beast was truly difficult to find. He finally understood the pain of finding a suitable soul beast for himself. In the past, he didn't need to be picky about soul beasts. He just needed to find one based on their soul skills. Other soul masters had too many things to worry about and needed to coordinate with each other. Sometimes, finding a suitable soul ring could take up to a month. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to find anything today. Lin Feng began to rush back, preparing to soak in the hot spring for the night. But not long after he flew, he suddenly saw a large tree shrouded in moonlight in the middle of a small valley. The valley was very spacious, and there was only one large tree in the middle. The moonlight shone down, allowing the tree to absorb it. It was a moon tree. Its entire body was covered in fruits that flickered with moonlight, just like a half moon. This tree got its name from these fruits. Shrek Academy's forest had such trees, but they were ordinary trees that were only 2 meters tall. But the one in front of him was more than 30 meters tall, and it had become a soul beast. Looking at the might of the moonlight, it was at least 60,000 years old. Although plant-type soul beasts cultivated slowly, their strength was boundless compared to ordinary soul beasts. Although it was only 60,000 years old, ordinary 90,000-year soul beasts wouldn't dare to provoke it. It was very powerful. Of course, plant-type soul beasts had their weaknesses. They were extremely afraid of fire, just like the fireweaver monkey. If it were to face a moon tree, even if it was only 30,000 years old, it would immediately run away. All things in the world have their mutual engendering and countering each other. Of course, this wasn't important. When Lin Feng saw this moon tree, he had an idea. This is it. It was powerful and could bear fruits. It perfectly met Lin Feng's requirements. He didn't waste any more words and directly summoned his incarnation to attack from both sides. Lin Feng's affinity was only effective on weaker soul beasts. The effect would slowly weaken for soul beasts above 10,000 years. And this 60,000-year soul beast was even harder to lure. Instead of using its life force to show goodwill, he might as well be straightforward and beat it up. Soul beasts were very simple and simple-minded. Whether it was plant-type soul beasts or ordinary soul beasts, submitting to the strong was an ironclad rule. At this time, Lin Feng mixed the two together. The 1,000 manipulation ruler turned into countless ropes and tied up the moon tree tightly. It could not run away. It couldn't be helped. The difference in strength was too great. Moreover, Lin Feng's 1,000G ruler was very effective against the moon tree. Otherwise, the moon tree would have been able to escape through the ground. However, it was now trapped. Its branches struggled with all its might, but to no avail. It was tied up and unable to move. Either submit to me or die. Lin Feng removed a portion of the rope, giving the moon tree a chance to move. Soul beasts that had just reached 10,000 years might not be able to understand human speech, but this moon tree was already 60,000 years old. It might have lived for several thousand years, and it might have eaten quite a few soul masters. Under such circumstances, it was easy to understand Lin Feng's words. Its branches swayed wildly. Clearly, it didn't want to submit and was still struggling. Meow, Xiaoying called out. The moon tree was stunned for a moment, but it still struggled crazily. It seemed that it did not understand Xiaoying's words. Lin Feng did not say anything. He condensed a ball of vitality in his left hand and threw it to Xiaoying. Then a ball of flame appeared in his right hand and was thrown directly at the moon tree. When the ball of vitality appeared, the moon tree's body actually stopped and showed a look of desire. However, Lin Feng did not stop. The flame burned directly on the moon tree's body. The moon tree writhed in pain as if it was screaming silently. After burning for a few seconds, Lin Feng waved his hand and all the flames disappeared. Submit or die? Lin Feng asked again. At this moment, the moon tree no longer resisted. It stretched out a branch and touched Lin Feng's foot to show its submission. At this moment, a smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. He directly sent a ball of vitality to the moon tree and healed all its injuries. At the same time, the ropes formed by the 1,000 trickery ruler all disappeared. If you're the moon tree, you will be called Little Moon from now on. After casually giving the moon tree a name, Lin Feng said, "Don't resist. I will take you to a place." With that, Lin Feng emitted a ball of vitality to envelop Little Moon. Then, he flew quickly toward the ice fire in Yangwell. Soul beasts were not scheming. If they said they would submit, they would really submit. On the way back, Little Moon did not move at all. It was very obedient under the protection of the vitality. After arriving at the ice fire in Yangwell, Lin Feng uprooted all the fruit trees in the field and stuffed Little Moon inside. Perhaps because the energy here was very rich, Little Moon's branches swayed quickly and cheered. "From now on, you will live here. Do you hear me?" Lin Feng instructed. Little Moon swayed its branches and agreed. Xiaoying usually lived here. It wanted to absorb more energy and prepare to break through to the 100,000-year level. Therefore, it was better to live here than in the city. Today, Lin Feng used Life Bloom to wander around the forest. He even used a few clones to search separately. At this moment, he was a little tired. After returning, he did not plan to study it and directly went to sleep. The next morning, he woke up and went to the Soul Arena. After his opponent admitted defeat, he ran back. Now, the most popular topic in the competition was no longer the Avengers Alliance. Because they had not fought, the topic slowly died down. Now, the most discussed teams were the 5 Elemental Academies and Shrek Academy. Today, the team fighting against Shrek Academy was the Divine Wind team. The Divine Wind team was one of the 5 Elemental Academies. They were powerful and focused on speed. However, Shrek Academy was faster than them. In just half a minute, the Divine Wind team was defeated. They were completely defeated. Because of this battle, the audience that was originally cursing them instantly shut up. Shrek Academy used this kind of lightning-fast battle to tell the world that their Shrek Academy was still strong. Because of this, Tang San revealed his powerful 4th soul skill. Group Control Soul Skill, Blue Silver Cage. After all, the Divine Wind team was extremely fast and could fly. If they did not control them first, they would not have been able to end the battle so quickly. This soul skill caused the audience to exclaim because this kind of group control soul skill usually only appeared on Soul King level control type soul masters. It was really shocking that Tang San could use it. However, because of the exposure of this soul skill, it also reminded the other academies that when they faced Shrek Academy in the future, they would pay attention to this soul skill. This time, the Divine Wind team was trapped mainly because this soul skill was unexpected. If they focused on defense, some of the faster soul ancestors would have a chance to dodge. Chapter 336. However, so what if they knew? Tang San and the others were well aware that there was a huge gap between a soul master who had mastered soul power control and a soul master who hadn't. Their powerful 10,000-year soul skills could be used continuously, but could they? The Shrek Academy had never shown this before. If one day the opponent thought that they were safe after dodging Tang San's soul skill, then they were gravely mistaken. When a second blue-silver cage appeared at their feet, then they would cry. Furthermore, because they often practiced soul power control, Tang San and the others had a lot more soul power than ordinary soul masters. At this time, a soul ancestor was almost equivalent to a soul king, and Dai Mubai was almost comparable to a soul emperor. Under such circumstances, Tang San and the others only had to be on guard against the Martial Soul Hall and the Oakland Academy's teams. According to the Grandmaster, the Star Luo Empire's royal team was similar to the Heaven Do Empires, so they didn't have to worry too much. In the depths of the Shrek Academy, by a small lake, Tang San and Xiao were drinking milk tea while discussing matters. Feng Ge has been playing outside every day recently and hasn't brought us along. He even took Xiaoying with him. Now, we're either competing or cultivating every day. It's too boring. Xiao had a depressed look on her face. Xiao was quite playful. Apart from the competition, all she did every day was cultivate. She was bored to death. Feng Ge should have something to do. When we competed, I saw him come to watch, Tang San said. Tang San remembered that Lin Feng had mentioned that he was researching something. He hadn't seen him these days, so he should be busy with it. Let's not talk about this. Third brother, your hidden weapons are almost finished. When the time comes, Uncle Ning will directly give you 5 million gold coins. How are you going to spend so much money? Xiao Wu's eyes shone. I'll spend it however I want. Tang San smiled. In fact, a few days ago, Ning Fengji had looked for him to discuss a business deal. Most of his money was prepared to be used to build the Tang sect. Once the Tang sect was officially built, he would continue to complete his next order with the 7 Treasures Glaze sect and earn even more money. Right now, what troubled Tang San was the Supreme Sky sect. Over the past few days, he had asked around about the Clear Sky sect and the great battle back then. The final results showed that his father and the martial spirit palace were enemies, which meant that the martial spirit palace was also his enemy. This relationship made him very confused and puzzled. This world was too complicated, and he couldn't understand it. Shui, the emperor of the Heaven Do Empire, was too despicable. Earlier, he had used 10,000 Soul Master legions to force them into a corner. However, Shui had later expressed his goodwill to the academy. Now, the relationship between the two sides had improved. But wasn't Shui supposed to be the master's enemy? Back then, he had wantonly captured them and sent out an army of 10,000 Soul Masters, as if he wanted to raze the Shrek Academy to the ground. If it weren't for Douluo and Thanos, their fate wouldn't have been any better. According to Tang San's thoughts, Emperor Shui had to be killed. However, the contradiction was that Shui Ye's son, Shui Qinghe, was very nice to them. He was also very close to them. Recently, he had been in contact with them during the tournament. Shui Qinghe had also told him some information about the great battle back then. From Tang San's perspective, Shui Qinghe was a good person, but his father was very bad. The Martial Spirit Palace was the same. They helped commoner Soul Masters and gave them subsidies. Furthermore, Soul Masters could use the Martial Spirit Palace's token to enter the Soul Hunting Forest to hunt soul beasts for free. These actions made Tang San feel very good about the Martial Spirit Palace. However, his father had a huge feud with the Martial Spirit Palace. Whether it was the Heaven Do Empire or the Martial Spirit Palace, these contradictory matters made Tang San feel very conflicted. He didn't know how he was going to face them in the future. He originally wanted to confide in Lin Feng about these things and get Lin Feng's guidance. However, now that Lin Feng wasn't around, he could only keep it in his heart. He didn't confide in Grandmaster or Xiao Wu. Grandmaster was too weak. It was useless to tell him. Xiao Wu was even more so. She was incomparably naive. Telling her would only add to her worries. She wouldn't be able to think of any good ideas, even if she racked her brains. I want to buy all the milk tea shops in Heaven Do City. That way, I'll have different milk tea to drink every day. Xiao Wu narrowed her eyes. Her face was full of anticipation. You only know how to drink milk tea. You're about to become a milk tea. You'd better cultivate properly. Tang San said unhappily. Then he stood up and left. Xiao Wu stomped her feet angrily. You're the milk tea. I'm not. I fire Yang well. When Lin Feng returned, he felt that he had gone to the wrong place. Didn't he just leave for a morning? His medicinal field and manor felt like they had been robbed by bandits. In the medicinal field, other than the immortal medicine, there were not many other herbs left. They were either broken and scattered or had disappeared. The immortal medicine was also affected. The surrounding ground was turned into a mess. It felt like it had been plowed, but the herbs inside were still alive. As for the other parts of the manor, there were traces of plowing everywhere. Some buildings were destroyed. Beside the hot spring, Little Moon was motionless. It was very quiet. At this moment, Xiaoying ran over. Meow. At the same time, it pointed at the Little Moon. What? Little Moon ate all the ordinary herbs? Lin Feng's eyes widened. Although Xiaoying couldn't speak now, it could still convey the general meaning by shouting. Meow. Meow. Xiaoying nodded and then called out twice. It wanted to eat the immortal medicine in the end? If he didn't stop it, it would have finished eating it? Meow. Xiaoying nodded again. Lin Feng was slightly stunned. Then, he picked up Xiaoying and came to Little Moon's side. At this moment, Little Moon seemed to be sleeping. It was motionless and did not see Lin Feng at all. However, Lin Feng clearly saw that when he came over, Little Moon's trunk shook. This guy was clearly awake. It was pretending to be asleep. Lin Feng directly kicked Little Moon. In the next second, a scene that surprised Lin Feng appeared. Little Moon's tree root suddenly became angry and moved to the side like a foot. And on the spot, there was a plowed ground left. The truth of the matter was immediately revealed. What Xiaoying said was true. Little Moon was simply a bandit. Taking advantage of his absence, not only did it finish all the herbs, it even ran around. You ate all my herbs? Lin Feng asked in a deep voice. Lin Feng would usually put some immortal medicine seeds in his soul tools. but he didn't pay much attention to these ordinary herbs, so he didn't care. At this moment, Lin Feng couldn't get those that had been eaten clean in a short period of time. Although the losses weren't great, and the houses and land could be repaired quickly, Little Moon was clearly a tree. Why did it feel like it could run even faster than a husky? Chapter 337. Soul beasts all had personalities, just like Xiao Wu's fighting spirit and Xiao Ying's quietness. If Little Moon was active or tasty, it would be difficult to deal with him. This kind of personality couldn't be changed easily. Just like Xiao Wu, he had told her to be more ladylike, but every time there was a fight, wasn't she still the first to rush forward? It would be fine if Little Moon was only active, but if it was tasty, then it couldn't be kept in the ice fire yin-yang well. I'm asking you a question. Did you eat all the herbs? Little Moon had moved just now, but it was still pretending to be dead. Lin Feng laughed. As he spoke, he pretended to kick it again. This time, Little Moon finally reacted. One of its branches stretched down and swayed crazily, indicating that it didn't eat. Meow. It's lying. Xiao Ying immediately pointed with its claws. Lin Feng condensed a ball of flame in his right hand. Seeing the flame, Little Moon immediately panicked and its trunk shook crazily. Then, under Lin Feng's slightly surprised gaze, herbs fell from Little Moon's trunk one after another, piling up into a small mountain. You still say you didn't eat it, but you spat it out. Lin Feng's flame approached. This Little Moon was actually lying. It shouldn't be. Soul beasts wouldn't lie. Yayai. Little Moon's trunk continued to shake. Perhaps it was because it was anxious, but it even let out a strange cry. Meow, meow. Xiao Ying called out twice and translated Little Moon's words. Hearing this, Lin Feng was stunned. Little Moon wasn't lying? It turned out that Little Moon didn't eat. It collected the herbs to absorb the energy within. Actually, it had eaten, but Little Moon didn't have such a strong ability to understand. In addition, Lin Feng seemed to be angry, so was a little nervous and quickly denied it. You can absorb the energy inside? What about the energy? Lin Feng asked curiously. Yeah. Little Moon shook the tree trunk. Lin Feng tried his best to understand what it meant, but he was still confused in the end. As a plant-type soul beast, Little Moon was still a little stupid. On top of that, his strength was a little weak. Although he could understand, his ability to express himself was still a little lacking. Finally, with Xiao Ying's translation, Lin Feng figured out what it meant. The energy of those herbs had been directly absorbed into its body and could no longer be found. Absorb some more now and get the energy out for me. Don't absorb it in, Lin Feng said. He had a guess in his heart. If it was feasible, Little Moon could definitely produce high-quality fruits. After all, the fruit on its body had the effect of increasing soul power. It was just that the effect wasn't that strong. Yeah, Little Moon hesitated. Lin Feng was still angry just now. Why did he suddenly want to eat these things? Could it be fishing? Hurry up and eat. See if you could be like me, Lin Feng urged. At the same time, he condensed a drop of celestial medicine essence and placed it on his hand. Yeah. Little Moon was instantly excited. It had a strong desire for this essence. Life Force didn't have this kind of attraction to Little Moon. You want it? Lin Feng was stunned. Yeah. Little Moon nodded its head repeatedly, and leaves flew everywhere. Do what I said just now first. Lin Feng put away the celestial medicine essence. Hearing this, Little Moon no longer hesitated and immediately put the herbs that it had spat out back onto the tree trunk. There was a large groove over there, and the herbs were all placed there. In the next second, Little Moon's entire body emitted a hazy moonlight, and the herbs in the groove were melting bit by bit. Strands of light gathered in the middle of the groove, condensing into celestial medicine essence. Originally, this essence would be directly absorbed by Little Moon, but Lin Feng told it not to absorb it, so it didn't absorb it. Just like that, about half an hour later, a rice-sized drop of celestial medicine essence finally condensed in the groove. This speed was a bit slow. If Lin Feng were to do it, it would at most take 1 or 2 minutes, and it would turn into essence soon after eating it. However, Lin Feng also knew that not everyone was as strong as him. Condensing a drop of celestial medicine essence in half an hour was already not bad. Lin Feng waved his hand, and the 1,000 trickery ruler turned into a jade bottle and collected the drop of celestial medicine essence. While starting to analyze it, Lin Feng plucked a few celestial medicine from the celestial medicine field, took out the bunch of herbs in Little Moon's groove, and threw the celestial medicine in. Just like before, condense the energy inside. As long as you succeed, this is yours. Lin Feng showed the celestial medicine essence in his hand again. Instantly, Little Moon was full of energy and hurriedly absorbed it. Lin Feng didn't care about it and grabbed the bunch of herbs over. Sensing it, about 10% of the outermost herbs had already been melted, and the medicinal essence condensed from that 10% was, of course, far inferior to the celestial medicine essence, and a lot of its medicinal effects have been lost. On one hand, it should be that Little Moon would unconsciously absorb a little. On the other hand, it would also lose a part of it when it converted, and a lot of it would be lost due to the conflict of medicinal effects. In the end, the effect of this essence was not even half of the herb itself, only a little more than 1/3. Although it was little, the effect was still not bad. Now, it was up to Little Moon to absorb the celestial medicine. If it could reach this level, then Lin Feng wouldn't need to do anything at all, and Little Moon would be able to greatly increase the medicinal effects of the fruit it produced. In that case, Lin Feng had really picked up a treasure. He had been researching for so many days, and it was solved so easily. There was a feeling of unreality. Moreover, because this medicinal effect was condensed by Little Moon on its own, it was of the same origin as it, and there would be no problem at all when it absorbed it. Under such circumstances, Lin Feng only needed to increase the amount of essence, and as long as it didn't exceed a limit, the fruit's medicinal effect would only become stronger and stronger. Absorbing celestial medicine was much harder than other herbs. It was clearly just a few stalks of celestial medicine, but Little Moon had to absorb them for more than an hour before it melted them. And the condensed celestial medicine essence was about the same size as the herb essence just now. Lin Feng immediately grabbed it in his hand and studied it. At the same time, he also threw the drop of essence that he had promised to Little Moon. It was very happy, and its body emitted a dazzling light as it began to absorb that drop of celestial medicine essence. As for Lin Feng, he had also started his research. Half a day passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng's face was filled with joy, because after his many tests, he found that his guess was completely correct. Little Moon, you're really a treasure. With it, it would be much more convenient in the future. It would naturally produce fruits, and Lin Feng only needed to fertilize it. Chapter 338. Speaking of which, Little Moon had a total of 2 methods to produce fruits that met Lin Feng's requirements. One was to directly condense the essence, and then Little Moon would inject it into one of its fruits. This was fast, but it consumed a lot of energy. The other was to condense the essence, and then Little Moon would absorb it all. This way, the fruits on its body would become stronger and stronger as time passed. Although this consumed less energy and was of the greatest help to Little Moon, the speed was very slow. Fortunately, the 2 methods could be carried out at the same time. First, he could produce some fruits, then slowly nurture them. After a few days, Lin Feng would find time to return to the Holy Soul Village and bring these fruits to Old Jack. At the same time, he would also help him obtain his second soul ring and become the soul grandmaster he had always dreamed of. After all, Old Jack was old. Even with the essence of the immortal medicine to improve his physique, his cultivation wouldn't be that fast. Lin Feng developed these fruits mainly for Old Jack to eat so that he could quickly increase his strength and make his body stronger. As for Tang San and the others, Lin Feng was just bringing them along. Xiaoying, watch Little Moon. When I'm not around, it can only absorb 3 immortal medicines a day at most. You're not allowed to eat any more. Lin Feng instructed. Just now, he had already explained the general situation to Little Moon. It would absorb more than half of the immortal medicine essence, condensed every day, and leave a little behind. And the little bit left behind could be used by Lin Feng to make 1 or 2 fruits. This way, by the time the competition ended, Lin Feng would have more than 10 fruits on him. However, this was under the condition that there was enough immortal medicine. Lin Feng had to come every day to hasten the ripening and nurture more immortal medicine seeds. Meow, Xiaoing nodded in response. Little Moon at the side also waved its branches and made a ya sound. Not caring much, Lin Feng sowed the seeds. After hastening the ripening of a batch, he soaked in the ice-fire yin-yang well and fell asleep. In the next few days, everything was as usual, as if it had been planned. The situation was about the same every day. But this morning, when Lin Feng's 7 doppelgangers stood on the stage, the 7 people on the other side didn't admit defeat this time. Not only was Lin Feng puzzled, but even the audience was a little puzzled. They had admitted defeat against the Oakland Academy, and now there was suddenly a team that didn't admit defeat. It was quite sudden. Taking a closer look, it turned out to be the Elephant Academy that had been defeated by Shrek Academy on the second day. Up until now, they had 7 wins and 9 losses. As one of the 5 elemental academies, the Elephant Armor Academy was still very strong. The audience present was actually very surprised to have such a record. But now, they dared to challenge Oakland Academy. What was the meaning of this? He knew that he would not be able to get a spot in the future, so he wanted to see the strength of a strong team? Or was he being used as a tool? Or were they used to test the Avengers of the Avengers? In any case, the courage of Weevil Academy to face the 7 members of the Avengers was commendable. On the VIP platform, Ning Fengji's eyes flickered as he glanced at Sokka's. It would be fine if the Elephant Academy voluntarily challenged the Avengers, but if they were instigated by someone, Ning Fengji suspected it was Sokka's. After all, the Elephant Academy wasn't a weak force. There were only 5 forces present that could make them take action. 7 Treasures Glazed Sect, Martial Spirit Palace, Shrek Academy, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, and the Avengers. First of all, the Avengers were ruled out. Although they had Douluo behind them, they weren't stupid. There was no need for them to beat him up. The 7 Treasures Glazed Sect was also ruled out. Ning Fengji knew that he didn't do it. The remaining 3 forces were all possible. They all wanted to test the strength of the Avengers. But in terms of possibility, Martial Spirit Palace was the most likely. Thunder Academy and Shrek Academy had a high chance of winning. As long as they maintained a stable performance, they would be able to get a spot. They didn't need to test the waters either, because there would always be other teams that would help them test the waters during the promotion competition and the finals. Martial Spirit Palace was different. They didn't know much about the Avengers. It would be good to test them now. Up until now, there was a rumor spreading. The rumor was that the Avengers were just for show. They didn't make a move even once. They just wanted to get a spot in the finals. Although there were very few people who guessed this, and others would just laugh it off, as time passed, the rumor would continue to grow as long as the Avengers didn't make a move. Martial Spirit Palace must have heard this rumor, so they sent the Elephant Academy to test the Avengers. That was the truth. Sokka's felt that it was time to test the Avengers. The Avengers were too mysterious. Up until now, the titled Douluo behind them hadn't appeared, so he asked the Elephant Academy to come out and fight. While the audience was talking, the referee looked at the people of Weevil Academy strangely and then announced, "I announce the start of the 6th match of the 17th round of the preliminaries." The Elephant Academy dared to face the Avengers. Of course, they weren't asking for a beating. They had a new tactic. This tactic was to concentrate on defense. Everyone gathered together and activated their martial souls and soul skills. They were on guard against all the enemies around them. Although it was impossible to win the soul battle like this, they never thought of winning from the beginning. Martial soul possession. The captain of the Elephant Academy shouted. Everyone had their martial soul possession and gathered together to release their soul skills. Good tactic. This can maximize the defensive power. Even a soul emperor won't be able to break through in a short time. In the resting area, Dai Mubai praised. They had fought with the Elephant Academy before. At that time, Dai Mubai had boosted his team and himself, except for Oscar Sausage. At that time, his strength was comparable to those weaker soul emperors. But even so, he needed to use all his strength to break through their defense. At this time, all 7 of them gathered together and used a defensive combination skill. If Dai Mubai were to break it, even if he used all his boosts, ate Oscar sausage, and used his 4th soul skill, he might not be able to break it quickly. Unless his 5th soul skill was an attack-type soul skill, then he would have a chance. The current 7 people of the Avengers were definitely not as good as Dai Mubai at his peak. Facing this defense, they would at least need to fight for a few minutes. Such a long time would allow the Avengers to display many offensive skills, or they could use some of their true abilities. If they want to end the battle quickly, they have to take out some trump cards. Tang San's eyes narrowed. Everyone was looking forward to what the Avengers would choose. Chapter 339. In the arena, all the members of the Weevil Academy released their martial souls and unleashed their soul skills. Their auras were extremely powerful. They just stood there, giving people the feeling that they were as immovable as a mountain. Interesting. Lin Feng never liked to talk nonsense when fighting. Since a team dared to attack him now, he would fight back. Lin Feng's initial idea to participate in this competition was to see more of the strange martial souls and then fight with those geniuses. In the qualifiers, most of the teams were weak. None of them could fight. Only the 5 Elements Academy and Shrek Academy were worth Lin Feng's doppelganger. Unfortunately, in the previous competitions, all the teams that met him admitted defeat one by one. Tang San's team and the 2 5 Elements Academy were the same. He was a little surprised that the Weevil Academy wanted to challenge him now. However, Lin Feng didn't really want to fight with the Weevil Academy. This group of soul masters with diamond mammoths, as their martial souls were only a little stronger in defense. They weren't challenging at all. It was better to end it quickly. Thinking of this, Thunder God Thor walked in front of the other 6 people and smiled. One hammer. He grasped at the air with his left hand, and an ancient black hammer appeared in his hand. Lightning circled around the hammer. One hammer? What did that mean? The 7 people from the Weevil Academy were slightly puzzled. They didn't understand the Avengers' strategy. What does that mean? Is that Thor going to fight alone? It's Thor. He's very strong. He used his hammer to seriously injure a defense-type Soul King. Why aren't the others moving? Are they really going to let Thor fight alone? When Thor summoned his martial soul, the whole audience was talking. However, they didn't hear Thor's voice and just analyzed the situation in the arena. As for the other competitions, basically no one paid attention to them. This was a super show between the 5 Elements Academy and the Avengers. Who wouldn't want to watch it? In the resting area of Shrek Academy, Ning Rong Rong said, "I remember that Thor the God of Thunder fought in the last battle of the Avengers. After that battle, his badge became a ruby. He is very strong, but it is unrealistic for him to break through the defense of the Weaver Academy alone. He definitely can't do it," Oscar said. The others also expressed their agreement. Saul couldn't possibly break through the defense of 7 people. Furthermore, their martial souls were top-notch defense-type diamond mammoths. While they were having this thought, the situation on the battlefield changed. Steve placed his hand on Saul's shoulder, and in the next second, Saul's 4 soul rings appeared, 2 yellow and 2 purple. It was a perfect combination of soul rings. After the soul rings appeared, his 4th soul ring immediately lit up, causing him to jump slightly and his body to bounce back. Beside him, Steve's 4 soul rings also appeared as his soul power surged, following which a shield appeared in his hand, and he used all his strength to block it. Saul just happened to fall from the sky. With the help of this shield, his whole body flew more than 10 meters high. In the air, Saul raised his iron hammer high. Suddenly, lightning surrounded it. The lightning was like a sea, covering the entire arena. That gorgeous scene made the audience cheer. His powerful aura caused all the soul masters present to furrow their brows. Strong. Too strong. Is he still a soul ancestor? I feel that ordinary soul emperors aren't this strong. How can this Thor be so strong? Could it be that he used some special thing? It's a martial soul fusion skill. Just now, Steve grabbed Saul with his hand. At that time, the 2 of them were using a martial soul fusion skill. Now it seems that only Saul is attacking, but in fact, their soul power has already linked together. A soul Douluo saw the trick. Not only him, But many Soul Douluo from large families, as well as some sharp-eyed soul sages, also saw this. Normal soul masters wouldn't be able to see these details, but they were still powerful enough to notice them. After their explanation, some people nearby also understood Saul's current situation. However, Tang San's side had a different opinion. Third brother, is that a martial soul fusion skill? Xiao Wu said with some uncertainty. I see that their soul power has already linked together. Isn't that a martial soul fusion skill? Dai Mubai said with a glance. The others also had some doubts in their eyes. They were very familiar with martial soul fusion skills. Xiao Wu couldn't tell? It's not a martial soul fusion skill. Those two are using a combination skill. Tang San's eyes flashed. Combination skill. Everyone was stunned. How could the two of them have a combination skill? Weren't they both fusion skills? Just as they were puzzled, Saul suddenly jumped down from the arena with his hammer like a god of war. That unparalleled power made the faces of the Elephant Armor Academy below turn pale. They felt that a great disaster was about to befall them. Everyone, hold on. The captain roared. We can hold on. The power of this attack can't break our defense. He could feel that Saul's attack was very strong, but their defense wasn't weak either. It was just that the power was too frightening, and it made everyone feel a little scared. His roar had the effect of stabilizing the morale of the army. At this moment, Saul's hammer also smashed down, surrounded by a ring of thunder. The huge power of thunder collided with the 7 people. The soul power of the Elephant Armor Academy team spread out, forming a phantom of a diamond mammoth. It was 5 meters in size, and it let out a loud elephant cry towards the thunder above. The two powerful forces collided with each other, causing a strong soul power fluctuation. Even the arena under their feet cracked. Fortunately, their defensive soul skills were strong and barely blocked this hammer. As long as there were no accidents, Saul would definitely retreat. However, at this moment, the 50-50 captain, Steve, suddenly swung the shield in his hand. The shield turned into a stream of light and went straight to the Elephant Armor Academy team. Not good. Blocked from the flanks. The captain exclaimed. Because Saul's attack was too strong, the Elephant Armor Academy team had to focus on defending from above, and the defense around them was slightly weaker. If this shield hit one of them, the hammer above their heads would directly smash down. Clang! With a crisp sound, the captain of the Elephant Armor Academy reacted quickly and used all his strength to block the blow. The shield was directly bounced up and flew into the air. Seeing that Steve didn't follow up, the Elephant Armor Academy team breathed a sigh of relief and continued to block Saul above their heads. They didn't care about the shield anymore. However, the shield coincidentally bounced towards Saul, who was in the sky. No one paid attention to this. Whether it was the Elephant Armor Academy or the audience, no one cared about this detail. At this moment, Steve suddenly moved. Chapter 340. Steve was so fast that he left after images. Like a cannonball, he rushed straight to the shield in the air. He grabbed it directly and rushed towards Saul without slowing down. From the outside, it looked like Steve couldn't control his strength and accidentally bumped into his teammate. Was it a mistake or on purpose? At this moment, Saul in the sky suddenly withdrew his attack, then grabbed the hammer and smashed it towards Steve's shield. The attack suddenly withdrew? What's going on? This was the thought of everyone from the Weevil Academy. The sudden disappearance of the huge pressure above their heads made them feel a little at a loss for a moment. They didn't see Saul's subsequent actions because the lightning above their heads was dense, and they couldn't see the situation clearly. But the outside world could see it clearly. They saw Saul suddenly withdraw his attack. Then the lightning on the hammer burst out and smashed toward the shield. What was he doing? Why did he hit his teammate's martial soul? Was he angry because of his teammate's mistake? At this moment, almost everyone had this doubt in their hearts. They really couldn't understand what was going on. But in the next second, Newton, Galileo, Einstein, and other physics big shots told everyone what was going on. At the moment when the hammer and shield collided, a powerful aura erupted from both sides. As Steve slightly shifted the angle of the shield, The endless lightning on Saul's hammer was like a punishment from the heavens, hitting straight toward the Weevil Academy below. This is too horrifying. How did he manage to do that? Why is there such a huge power? I feel that the power of this attack is no weaker than the Soul Emperor's 6th soul skill. It might even be stronger. The cooperation between these two is too strong. Their martial soul fusion skill is so powerful that it can surpass the power of a Soul Emperor. For a moment, there were all kinds of discussions. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The thick lightning was really like lightning in the sky on a rainy day, shocking people. At this moment, the leader of the Weevil Academy immediately shouted, "Admit defeat. We, the Weevil Academy, admit defeat." However, it was too late. The attack had already been launched. The people of Ouija Academy had been in a daze because of Saul's attack and retreat. Now, because of the lightning, they could not see the situation above clearly. When the lightning struck, they finally reacted and wanted to fight to the death, but the attack had already landed on their bodies. Rolling thunderbolts exploded in the middle of the people from the Weevil Academy. Endless lightning was emitted. From afar, it looked like a blooming flower. It was very gorgeous. The 7 people from the Elephant Armor Academy were all blown away. They fell to the ground with serious injuries. In this strike, Lin Feng had held back a lot of his strength. Otherwise, if the strike really landed, at least half of them would have died. Thor, the Thunder God. Thor, the Thunder God. Thunder God. The winner was decided in an instant, and the audience cheered Thor's name. After staring blankly for a while, the referee walked over and announced Oakland Academy's victory. Speaking of this battle, the only thing that had truly hit the Weevil Academy was a hammer. If Saul said one strike, it meant one strike. The 7 people from the Elephant Academy were seriously injured. They deserved it. Knowing full well that he was no match for Zhang Xian, it was foolish to insist on challenging him. Being used as a tool without knowing it was stupid. No matter what the situation was, these 7 people deserved to be injured. Lin Feng would not have the slightest sympathy. The team leader of the Elephant Armor Academy immediately brought people up to check that the 7 people were seriously injured and no one was dead. He breathed a sigh of relief and did not dare to say anything to the Avengers. He silently took his people away. At this time, the battle was over. The 7 people from the Avengers did not stay here any longer and quickly disappeared. Although they left, the discussion in the field did not decrease at all. Instead, it became more and more. Everywhere, people were discussing the battle just now. Saul's hammer was too strong. No wonder he was codenamed Thunder God. The ordinary audience did not care about martial soul fusion skills or combination skills. In their opinion, it was Thunder God Saul who defeated the Elephant Armor Academy alone. As for Steve, wasn't he a little brother who played an assist? But the things that the Soul Masters saw were completely different. Some of the Soul Masters said directly, "Soul bone. It's definitely a soul bone. That guy called Saul must have a soul bone on him. He was only a soul ancestor. Even if he was a powerful soul master with a top-notch beast martial soul, he could not withstand such a powerful force. It was only possible if he had a soul bone on him. A soul ancestor actually had a precious soul bone on him." This speculation shocked everyone. Generally speaking, only soul masters above the Soul Emperor level would have a soul bone, because only soul emperors had the strength to hunt 10,000-year soul beasts. And for something as precious as a soul bone, even the titled Douluo might not have all of them. He did not even have enough for his own use. How could he give them to others? Because of this, after guessing that Saul had a soul bone on him, everyone was so shocked. There was even a trace of greed in many people's hearts. He was just a soul ancestor. If they met and killed him, it would be a soul bone profit. As for the title Douluo behind the Avengers, he could deter some big forces, but he could not stop some desperados. Some evil soul masters might take action. A few decades ago, there were actually many evil soul masters on the continent. It was a turbulent era. Killing others and seizing their soul power was something that happened every day. There were even some evil soul masters who dared to brazenly walk on the streets. Now, a few decades had passed. Because of the vigorous purging by the Martial Soul Hall and the 2 empires, there were much fewer evil soul masters. Many soul masters had not even heard of the term. However, this did not mean that evil soul masters did not exist. They were just hiding. Right now, the Desperados and evil soul masters wanted to kill Saul of the Avengers, but they could not find him at all. Lin Feng's clone disappeared after leaving the arena. No one knew where they went, but there was a more reliable guess. Doctor Strange was actually in the vicinity. Every time the Avengers left, he would be taken away. No matter what, the Avengers came and went like ghosts. It was very difficult to assassinate them. Even if they knew that they had a soul bone, it was not something that they could get their hands on. While most people were guessing that Saul had a soul bone on him, Dai Mubai said, "I think that Saul might have 2 soul bones or 1 very old soul bone." Outsiders did not know how strong a soul ancestor would be if they had a soul bone, but Tang San and the others knew. A soul bone could allow a soul ancestor to withstand the strength of a soul emperor. However, a soul bone was obviously not enough to withstand the strength of a soul sage.